Chapter 441, Unequal Battle 2. Boom! On the ground was pushed by Kurabi's strong airflow, which directly dried the top layer of soil on the ground. If you look closely, you can see the smooth surface on the ground. Obviously, this layer of mud, the textured soil, has been directly dried into ceramics by Kurabi's strong airflow. A closer look at Kurabi's body has changed again. The tail that was originally materialized is now absorbed, and 4 energy tails composed of chakra energy are gradually extended. Now it can be said that Kurabi's whole body is wrapped in a chakra coat, as if there is a protective film in the fragile body. Kurabi glanced at Chen Uchiha with a strong fighting intent, and once again drew out the 7 knives behind him, and suddenly Kurabi frowned. Looking at Uchiha Chen, who was smiling but not smiling, he always felt that something was wrong in his heart, because everything seemed to be going too smoothly. From the beginning to the present, no matter how Uchiha Chen did not carry out their actions, stop, just let them act. It was as if Chen was not worried at all that they would turn the tables, and when he looked at Chen Uchiha, he seemed to be looking at the ants in the cage. Although the situation in front of him seems to be slightly in favor of Kurabi and the others, the thought of Uchiha Chen's weird smile cast a shadow over Kurabi's confidence. Looking at Uchiha Chen, Kurabi knew that he could no longer delay. The longer the delay was, the confidence of himself and others would be gradually lost, and he could only do it first. Chirabi slashed at his feet, and the whole person quickly swept forward and attacked Uchiha Chen. At the same time, he waved his body again and again, and the 7 knives clamped on Kurabi's body attacked Uchiha Chen at the same time. Take a closer look. The body of each knife is actually covered with a layer of blood-red chakra. Supersonic Shock Thunder Escape Knife. It's actually a weapon made of chakra-conducting metal. Chen Wei glanced at Kurabi in surprise, knowing that chakra-conducting metal is not cheap in the world of Hokage, even if it is owned by Asuma, the son of the 3rd generation, in Konoha. It's just a small 2-handled knives. In other words, the famous Konoha Shirato Hatake Shigeru's sword is just doped with a little chakra-conductive metal. In particular, it can be seen how rare this chakra conduction metal is in the world of Hokage. And the 7 knives in Kurabi's hands are actually doped with chakra-conductive metal, which is not recorded in the original book. Surprise turned into surprise, but Uchiha Chen didn't panic at all. Facing the menacing Kurabi, Uchiha Chen was not polite but waved the colorful long sword in his hand. Dang 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 dang. The colorful long sword in Chen's hand collided with Chirabi's 7 knives, sparking sparks everywhere, and the two fought hard for a while. After hundreds of moves, Kurabi's offensive couldn't help but gradually slow down, and even his breathing was accompanied by a slight wheeze. After the high-intensity battle over time, Kurabi's physical strength has shown signs of depletion. That's not going to work. Uchiha Chen leaked a playful look, as if to say that you're going to die if I haven't tried my best. Damn, don't be complacent. Kurabi swung the colorful long sword in Chen's hand with a knife, pulled back, and even showed an ugly expression. He glanced in the direction of Naruto behind him. Is it okay? Seeing that Naruto is still concentrating on condensing the tailed beast Jade, he can't help but secretly anxious. He can't last long at this rate. Uchiha Chen is really too strong. Although Kurabi doesn't want to admit it, this is the truth. It's just that his current strength has no way to trouble Uchiha Chen, and for now, he can only wait for Naruto to open a breakthrough. I hope I can make it in time. Chirabi murmured to himself, and then snorted. The chakra in his body surged wildly, and the crazy thunder and lightning rolled on Chirabi, which matched the scarlet color on his body at the moment. The chakra coat is like a tumbling god of thunder. Boom! The terrifying air wave was like a wave in the sea, madly sweeping towards the location of Uchiha Chen, carrying the scorched yellow soil that was lifted up, like a tornado filling the sky, just blocking Uchiha Chen's sight. Good chance. Kurabi's eyes lit up, his feet moved, and he quickly rushed towards Uchiha Chen under the cover of the turbulent airwaves. Lei Dun Chao Lei Plow Hot Knife. Kurabi opened one arm and used all his strength to pounce towards Chen Uchiha. It was obvious that his move was aimed at defeating Chen. Boom. Boom. The first sound was the sound of Kurabi hitting Chen, and the second sound was the sound of Kurabi being forced to stop and step on the ground. How is that possible? Kurabi, who was wrapped in the eight-tailed chakra coat and the thunder attribute chakra, showed an unbelievable look on his face. One finger. It's actually a finger. When Kurabi rushed over, Chen was not blocked by the flying sand and fluttering in the sky, and any means of covering up his whereabouts under the scarlet writing wheel were useless. I saw Uchiha Chen stretched out a finger and gently pressed against Kurabi's arm where the powerful chakra was condensed, forcibly resisting Kurabi's forward pace in front of him. Subconsciously, Chirabi involuntarily retreated 2 steps to the back. The hand that used the thunder plow hot knife was now weakly drooping down, and it was obvious that this hand had been abolished by Chen. Although the eight-tailed chakra is still constantly repairing the hand that was abolished by Uchiha Chen, there is no way to bring a hint of joy to Kurabi. Too strong, too strong. Kurabi opened his mouth. He no longer knew what words to use to describe it. Even his righteous brother, the fourth Raikage, couldn't say that he could block this fatal blow so easily. With a cheerful and optimistic nature, Kurabi, who faced everything positively, couldn't help but feel a little bit of doubt in his heart at this moment. Isn't it? Their decision at the beginning was wrong. Maybe he should have forcibly taken Naruto away instead of doing useless work here. Desperate emotions arose in Kurabi's heart, and he didn't even know it. At this moment, Uchiha Chen seemed to have become an invincible person in his mind. Uncle Kurabi, get out of the way. At this moment, Naruto's voice came from behind Kurabi, just interrupting his wild thoughts. Chapter 442, Unequal Battle 3. At this moment, Naruto roared and interrupted Kurabi's thoughts, which happened to stop his endless thinking. If Kurabi was allowed to go on like this, the more he thought, the more he would think about Uchiha Chen's thoughts. The fear will also get bigger and bigger, so Chen will become a nightmare in Kurabi's heart. That is to say, when Kurabi meets Uchiha Chen in the future, he will subconsciously have a fearful mood, and he will be timid before fighting. This is deadly between ninja duels. Fortunately, Naruto was able to catch up at this time. Kurabi glanced at Naruto subconsciously, and there was a complex expression in his eyes, grateful and fortunate. I saw Naruto holding the dark black-tailed beast jade firmly in both hands, and he would never let it go even if it jumped in his hands. After seeing Kurabi withdrew, Naruto breathed a sigh of relief, and then dropped it like a bomb. The dark black-tailed beast jade in his hand was thrown at Uchiha Chen, as if he was holding a bomb that was about to explode. Are you here? Uchiha Chen's eyes became solemn. Although he had 1,000 ways to avoid Naruto's slow-tailed beast jade, he couldn't help but want to try the taste of hard connection. It was like being alone. Don't leave the good road, you have to go to those strange places, short for dying, you won't die. Boom. The dark black-tailed beast jade exploded in front of Uchiha, like a deep-sea atomic bomb exploded. Terrible energy overflowed from the center of the explosion, and all the places with a radius of more than 10 meters were affected by the tailed beast jade. So this place was like an earthquake, shaking violently, and a mushroom cloud several meters high rose from the ground. Even Kurabi and Naruto, who were retreating, did not completely escape the tailed beast jade. The explosion range, even people couldn't help being overturned to the ground by the aftermath of the tailed beast jade explosion. However, the two of them were not depressed at all when they were overturned by the tailed beast jade, but looked at the mushroom cloud with burning eyes, as if they wanted to penetrate the mushroom cloud to see what was going on inside. This time, it should be safe. Don't worry, Uncle Kurabi, it's all right. The space inside the mushroom cloud was constantly wreaking havoc, and Naruto and Kurabi could only wait outside quietly for more than 20 minutes before the mushroom cloud gradually rose and dissipated. Naruto and Kurabi widened their eyes to see what was going on, but the smoke still covered their eyes. Suddenly, Kurabi's eyes changed, and then he looked into the distance solemnly, because the 8 tails in his body told him that there still seemed to be signs of life-form activity in the center of the tailed beast jade explosion. After the smoke dissipated, the originally charred soil became more eroded under the ravages of the tailed beast Jade. The whimpering Xiaofeng blew past, causing waves of debris to fly, and standing in the center of the explosion was Uchiha Chen. The huge Susanoo almost wrapped Uchiha Chen's whole body, as if it seemed that Uchiha Chen didn't get hurt at all. Oh, no, if you look closely, you can still see that Uchiha Chen's clothes are so blackened. The tailed beast Yukankan that Naruto tried so hard to condense only burned the corner of Uchiha Chen's clothes. This is impossible, Kurabi shouted loudly. He couldn't believe his eyes. Except for the charred blackness on the corner of his clothes, Uchiha Chen didn't even breathe. How could he fight? The tailed beast Jade can already be said to be the strongest attacking method in their hands. Not even this how to deal with Uchiha Chen, you can already give up. When Naruto saw Uchiha Chen unscathed, his heart suddenly tightened, then he breathed a sigh of relief, and then he showed a shocked and unkind expression. As Chen's first friend, of course Naruto didn't want Chen to die in his hands, but as his enemy, he was shocked and uncomfortable that Chen was unscathed. But that's it. After releasing Susanoo, Uchiha Chen slowly opened his eyes, and gently brushed off the corners of his clothes that were charred to black, and said calmly. He took 2 steps forward, held the colorful long sword in his hand and pointed at Kurabi and Naruto. Is there any other way? If not, then this battle can be over. Very casual tone, obviously, Chen has not been serious from the beginning. Naruto, go away. The awakened Kurabi pushed Naruto behind him hard, and his current strength, who is still in the state of tailed beast, was different from that in the past, and Naruto flew out a distance of dozens of meters by him. Uncle Kurabi. Don't worry about me, go away. Kurabi roared without turning his head, and then looked at Chen Uchiha with a serious face, a large bead of sweat dripping down his cheek. If he could, he actually wanted to retreat now, but Chen wouldn't just watch the 2 of them escape together. If the 2 of them had just walked away honestly, maybe not so many things would have happened. Blame Naruto. In fact, it's not Naruto's fault, because even Kurabi underestimated Uchiha Chen's strength. Since he underestimated the enemy, he must take responsibility for his arrogance. Holding the 7 knives tightly, Kurabi shouted and rushed towards Uchiha Chen. He did not dare to drag it down, because the longer he dragged on, the faster his confidence would be lost, and he was afraid that he would face him at that time. I don't have the courage to raise a knife to Uchiha Chen. Ah, tilde. The 7 knives are constantly swung towards Uchiha Chen. The seemingly messy knives contain the essence of Yunren's 7 knives flow. The sword, light and sword shadow are confusing, and Kurabi's sword skills are so fast that it is impossible to see how the sword in his hand is swung out and how it is retracted. However, Kurabi was faster, but Uchiha Chen was faster. A colorful long sword blocked all the attacks of Kurabi's 7 knives, and none of the moves could really hit Uchiha Chen. Dang. Clang. With a loud attack, the knife in Kurabi's hand was finally overwhelmed, and broke into 2 pieces under repeated attacks. And the sound of the knife breaking seemed to remind Kurabi, making his attack stagnant. He looked at the broken knife in disbelief. He had to know that it was the best metal weapon in the Kingdom of Thunder. After accompanying him for so many years, he never thought that it would break here. Will become 6 knives. Have enough. Chen raised his eyebrows, lightly stroked the colorful long sword in his hand, and then looked at Kurabi with a stern look and said coldly, it's time for me to collect the interest now. Chapter 443, The 2 Who Escaped. A cold chill flashed in Uchiha Chen's eyes, and a murderous aura burst out, making Kurabi, who was about to attack, stagnate, and the knife in his hand suddenly seemed to have lost its direction. The most terrifying thing is that under the constant pressure of Uchiha Chen's murderous aura, Kurabi stepped back again and again, but it felt as if Chen had never left in front of him, but when he looked closely, Uchiha Chen didn't move half a step at all. Chen waved his arm holding the colorful long sword, and the long sword cut off Kurabi's left hand with a lingering sword energy, and also cut off the short knife that was holding his arm. Kurabi's long arm fluttered with blood and flew far away. He covered his arm and looked at Chen Uchiha with a bad look. He stepped back a few steps without any trace of his feet, and covered the arm if he didn't know it. One time. However, Uchiha Chen looked at him with a contemptuous smile. The colorful long sword in his hand did not stop. He swung it again and again, and cut off all of Kurabi's limbs in an instant. Uchiha Chen finally glanced at Kurabi, who was overflowing with blood. Chen let out a sigh of relief and slowly dissipated the colorful long sword in his hand. Originally, he didn't want to make it so bloody. It was obvious that Naruto and Kurabi were not sensible at all, and they happened to bump into Uchi. On the muzzle of Bo Chen, they have already let them go and still do not want to go. However, at this moment, Kurabi, who was supposed to be dead, suddenly turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared with a bang, replaced by a segment of octopus tentacles that had become torn apart. It turned out to be a clone technique. Chen nodded thoughtfully. No wonder that guy Kurabi became so weird before. It turned out that he had already started to use the clone technique. However, do you think you can run like this? Uchiha Chen raised his head and looked at the direction Naruto had left with a mysterious smile. You guys are too naive. At the same time, Naruto wanted to continue to help him after being pushed away by Kurabi at the beginning, but he saw Kurabi stretch out a hand and make a few secret gestures towards Naruto behind him. Naruto, who didn't listen to the lectures at the ninja school, didn't understand the meaning of Kurabi's gestures. Originally, Kurabi wanted to express the meaning of letting Naruto go first. He came to block Uchiha Tatsuya, and then trying to evacuate. Naruto will let him go quickly, and Kurabi will break out from another place. After many battles, after realizing that Chen was not an enemy they could defeat now, Naruto also knew that they should retreat now, but he would never agree to ask Kurabi to cover him. They should go back together. This is also the reason why Kurabi asked him to go before he did not go. Seeing that if he didn't take the route that would delay Kurabi's evacuation at this moment, Naruto gritted his teeth and turned around and ran away. I don't know how long I ran, but after I couldn't see Chen and Kurabi at all, Naruto gradually stopped, and he was slow by nature to react now. That's not right. Uncle Kurabi hits again by himself, but how can he break through from other places? He patted his head, only to realize that Kurabi lied to him. No, I have to go back and save Uncle Kurabi. Naruto turned his head, staring at the road away, staring into the distance with burning eyes, as if from here he could see Uchiha Chen and Kurabi who were fighting in front of him. Uncle Kurabi, wait for me, I'll be right here. Naruto took a deep breath and reattached the Konoha guard on his head and laughed loudly. Ha 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 ha, I want to be Naruto of Naruto. Uchiha Chen, here I come. Saying that, Naruto bent his body slightly, stepped on the ground with strength, jumped onto the tree, stepped on the branches and retreated all the way. However, on the way Naruto retreated, a figure galloped over from a distance, and the two passed by. It wasn't until this time that Naruto reacted. This person seems a little familiar. Uncle Kurabi. Naruto. The two stopped, and Naruto stared at Kurabi excitedly with wide eyes. Although he was a little confused about why Kurabi also retreated in this direction, this could not hinder his excitement. Uncle Kurabi, why are you here? Running a few steps forward, Naruto stood in front of Kurabi excitedly and said loudly, didn't you say you broke through from another direction? Looking at the excited Naruto, Kurabi laughed a little dumbly. It seems that this guy misread his gesture code, so that's fine, he was willing to retreat by accident. But then he asked with a solemn expression, why did you run back again? Naruto rubbed his head and laughed and said, ah ha ha, I understood your gesture before and said let's run separately, but only halfway through the run did I realize that if I ran, Uncle Kurabi, you would run alone. I can't, so I just want to go back and help you. Looking at Naruto's innocent face, Kurabi was angry and funny. What he laughed at was that Naruto could even read the password wrong. What I didn't expect was that Naruto's hearty laughter could not help but add a little warmth in my heart. Although it was very little, it just dispelled the fear caused by Uchiha Chen. By the way, how did you escape, Uncle Kurabi? How did you escape? Chirabi thought for a while, and seemed to have thought of Chen's sword energy waving in the sky. He couldn't help shivering, and subconsciously touched the slightly pale left hand. He said casually, "This is all unimportant. Now we haven't completely got rid of Uchiha Chen, let's find a way to get rid of him first." Okay. Naruto nodded, turned around, and continued to retreat with Kurabi. Along the way, Naruto has been pestering Kurabi, wanting him to explain how he escaped from Uchiha Chen, but Kurabi refused to speak, jokingly using the tentacles of the Eight Tails as a clone to escape so embarrassingly. How dare he speak out? Suddenly, Naruto's eyes seemed to find something. He stared at Kurabi's left hand, which was obviously fairer than the others, and asked curiously, "Hey, Uncle Kurabi, what's wrong with your hand? How did it become a little different?" Chirabi was a little embarrassed, and said angrily, "Just hurry on the road, why are you asking so many questions, you idiot, bastard?" However, they didn't know that behind them Uchiha Chen was galloping along the road they traveled. Chapter 444, Being Caught Up. Uchiha Chen half squinted his eyes, looked indifferently in the direction the two left, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, and a wicked smile evoked a soft voice. "If you want to fight, you can fight. If you want to leave, you can leave. Take me." Uchiha Chen is something. Already. Speaking of which, Uchiha Chen threw a kunai and raised his right foot, and the space in front of him suddenly experienced a wave of fluctuations, as if a pebble had been thrown into a calm lake and rippled layer by layer. After he stepped out with his right foot, his figure actually appeared dozens of meters away, just like the legendary shrunk into an inch. Catching the still flying Uchiha Chen, he thought for a moment. It seemed like 10 minutes had passed since Naruto escaped. According to the speed of the two of them, they should not have traveled very far. Uchiha Chen moved a little faster to catch up before the two of them escaped. Or, what's the use even if the two of them escaped? If Chen wants to kill them, what if there are thousands of troops in front of him? At this moment, Uchiha Chen is like a one-man army of 10,000 enemies, and taking the heads of the enemy generals from the 10,000 troops is like searching for things. Naruto and Kurabi are constantly fleeing, but Uchiha Chen is also constantly chasing the two. But how could Naruto and Kurabi's speed be comparable to Uchiha Chen, who can perform space ninjutsu? If it wasn't for the fact that Naruto hadn't placed the Flying Thunder God spell on Naruto beforehand, did they think the two of them could have escaped so quickly? Even so, Uchiha Chen is still using the Flying Thunder God to drive faster than the two of them. Glancing at the dense woods behind him, Kurabi sighed with relief. "Fortunately, I have escaped the catastrophe now. I really did not expect that Uchiha Chen's strength has grown to such a state now. No wonder back then my righteous brother once said that this guy may be the most gifted genius in the Uchiha clan." Naruto raised his head and glanced at Kurabi suspiciously. Did Uncle Raikage ever say that? Isn't the most talented Uchiha clan his brother Uchiha Itachi? Kurabi shook his head, stretched out his fingers and gestured some strange movements to explain. "No, Uchiha Itachi is strong, but not so strong that it makes people desperate. Even if my righteous brother can't fight, he won't be able to. He will be at a disadvantage. And Uchiha Chen has been able to fight against my adopted brother and me many years ago without falling behind. I didn't expect his strength to develop even more now. I have to say that we are already old." Speaking of which, Kurabi rarely showed a vicissitudes expression on his face. He was optimistic by nature, and he had never encountered anything that could make him change his face, and Uchiha Chen may have been an accident. His two consecutive emotional gaffes were followed by Uchiha Chen as related. One time was when Chen invaded Yunnin village, and the other time was what just happened. Naruto smiled and comforted. "Haha, don't be sad then uncle, you didn't use all your strength. If you use all your strength, you might be able to defeat him. Besides, it's not me. Well, I want to defeat him and bring him back to the village. Next time we meet, I will definitely not let him go." Saying that, Naruto squeezed his fist, and there was an expression called perseverance on his face. His ninja way was always rushing forward, facing the enemy hard steel. This is a belief and a belief. However, for the safety of Kurabi, he violated his own forbearance for the first time, or it cannot be said that he violated his forbearance, but Naruto always had an uncomfortable feeling in his heart, as if he was chasing when Sasuke did not recover. The resentment and depression in his heart will always accumulate in his heart, and then urge him to work hard to become stronger. Really, it's really exciting. Just as the two were walking and talking, a joking voice came from behind the two. After hearing this voice, the two of them tightened at the same time, and quickly turned their heads and looked at Chen Uchiha, who was rushing towards them both with a serious face. After catching kunai for the last time, Uchiha Chen put the kunai in his hand back into the system space. Although this flying thunder god technique is easy to use, it is not suitable for him. The words from the combat system are not suitable. Because Chen himself has a unique combat system, and in his kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes, there is space ninjutsu that is better than Fei Lei Shenjutsu, so there is absolutely no need to forcefully change his combat style for a tasteless Fei Lei Shenjutsu. Well, now that I'm here, why don't you let me go? Naruto, go away, I'll stop him, Kurabi whispered to Naruto. Want to run? Chen glanced at Kurabi and stomped hard. The soles of his feet fell, and a cracking sound resounded like an earthquake. Then, in the surprised eyes of Naruto and Kurabi, the ground on which Chen was standing cracked like a spider web, and branches broke through the cracks. Out galloped towards Naruto Kurabi. Wood escape wood clone technique. After passing by the two of them, branches broke out completely, and then turned into the wooden avatars of Uchiha Chen in the eyes of the two of them. 4 directions, 3 clones and 1 body, completely surrounded Kurabi and Naruto. Run. How do you want to run now? Uchiha Chen's tone was solemn. Looking at his gloomy and flickering eyes, it was obvious that he was slapped by Kurabi before he got angry. Kurabi's mouth grinned slightly, like a wry smile. Looking at the battle in front of him, Uchiha Chen was determined not to let the two of them go. Get ready to fight, boy. After speaking, Kurabi's face gradually calmed down. He informed Naruto, and began to assume a fighting stance. Naruto is obviously not a fool. After the two of them were surrounded, he understood that this matter is impossible to be good, and he has already begun to condense the spiral pill shuriken. I saw Naruto suddenly threw the spiral Maru shuriken out of Chakra's big hand. The wind escaped spiral Maru shuriken. Chakra's big hand took the spiral pill shuriken and went straight to Uchiha Chen's real body. Chen chuckled lightly, stood in place and stretched out a finger to be hard connected, but at this moment, Naruto turned his hands. Chakra's big hand actually changed a direction and smashed hard on Uchiha Chen's wood. On the Avatar. 440th chapters, The Last Stand. Uchiha looked at Naruto Uzumaki with an embarrassed expression. He originally thought he would come to him, but he didn't think that Naruto's original purpose was actually on his clone. Haha, I didn't think so. Naruto wiped the bridge of his nose and raised his eyebrows at Uchiha Chen, not caring at all about the embarrassed look on Uchiha Chen's face. You bastard. Chen laughed instead of anger, and snorted at Naruto. I didn't expect you to have such a brilliant mind. Seeing that the wooden avatar was hit by Naruto's Fengdun spiral Maru shuriken while he was caught off guard, Chen stretched out his hand, and another wooden avatar appeared on the spot. Naruto, who originally thought that one less avatar could relax a little, was suddenly stunned. There. Do you think it would be useful to kill my wooden clone? Uchiha sneered. Or, is your purpose just to kill my wooden clone? He let out a sigh of relief and watched as Kurabi gradually began to release their momentum. A strong sense of oppression came from Chen Uchiha, putting Naruto and Kurabi in a dilemma. Even Kurabi had to enter the state of tailed beast and use the power of the chakra coat to resist the oppression of Uchiha Chen. It's not good, Kurabi muttered to himself. Today, 3 of his 7 knives have been broken, and he is no longer the 7 knives warrior he used to be. However, in terms of lethality, it has not decreased. After all, the fewer knives, the greater the control over knives. Kira, who only had 4 knives now, was twice as fast as when he had 7 knives. But even so, he still had no chance of winning when facing Chen Uchiha, and even after his knife was cut off by Chen Uchiha, a shadow was left in his heart. Even Kurabi is not a samurai, not a swordsman. As long as he uses a knife, there is a belief in a knife. Now Kurabi's belief has been cut off by Uchiha Chen. If he still uses a knife, his actual combat power will drop at least when he encounters Uchiha Chen. 3 floors. This is not an exaggeration. Uchiha Chen is equal to Kurabi's demon in swordsmanship. If he wants to improve his swordsmanship again, he must cross the hurdle of Uchiha Chen, but he is in front of Uchiha Chen. If the sword is raised, the combat power will be forcibly suppressed again. This is an endless cycle. How difficult is it for a normal person to bypass it? It seems that we can only fight back. Uncle Kurabi, let's go. Naruto looked at Chen Uchiha with a serious face, but the excitement in his eyes could be seen by anyone. Kurabi shook his head with a wry smile, looking at the excited Naruto. He didn't know what to say. After all, they had to work hard in the current situation. Immediately, his face gradually became serious, but seeing that he did not draw his knife, it was obvious that he was still a little worried about Uchiha Chen. Ah! Kurabi roared, and began to transform in front of the two of them. The previous battles have proved that the tail beast transformation just covered with a layer of chakra coat is no match for Uchiha Chen. Only further tail beastization will do. If you let Uchiha Chen know what Kurabi is thinking now, he will definitely sneer. In his eyes, the tailed beast is a joke, or the tailed beast is a big joke in front of the eternal kaleidoscope. Uchiha Chen, who has now integrated the 10 tails, can control his eyes to switch between the samsara eye and the kaleidoscope at any time. The most important thing is that the final form of the writing wheel eye, that is, the Jugo Jade Eternal Kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, after the fusion of the 10 tails, Uchiha Chen could have chosen to evolve, but for some reason, a voice faintly told him that he was the most. It's better not to choose evolution. Now is not the best time to evolve. In addition to Jugo Young Kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, Uchiha Chen's eyes can be said to be the strongest eyes in the Naruto world, and the mere beast transformation is just a joke in his eyes. However, since Kurabi and Naruto have subconsciously ignored this, and if there is no movement from the 8 tails and 9 tails, Uchiha Chen doesn't mind playing with them. It's too early to go to the Akatsuki organization. At this time, Obito may not have become the 10-tailed person Zuli, and even if he is killed, he will not have the slightest sense of existence. Now Uchiha's mentality has already changed. Since the fusion and absorption of the 10 tails to become the 10-tailed pillar force, Uchiha's mentality has begun to slowly change. In the past, for survival, for revenge, he had to improve himself. Strength. But now, his strength has reached the peak of this world, and after listening to the system again telling stories about other worlds, Uchiha Chen has long looked down on those things, and now what he is most looking forward to is to come against such a valuable opponent or two. This is also the reason why Chen would let Obito recycle the golden horn and silver horn at that time, and let the big snake pocket reincarnate the deceased strong man Dirty Soil. Without the power of the 9 tails, Obito would not be able to become the 10-tailed people's pillar force, and without the efforts of Orochimaru, Madara Uchiha would not have been reincarnated by the filthy soil so quickly. Chen watched with interest Chirabi forcibly turning into a tail beast in front of him. Gradually, the blood-red chakra covered Chirabi's entire body, which was not enough. More chakra poured out continuously, and soon Chirabi was drowned in this blood-red chakra. The huge chakra wraps Kurabi in the center, and now Kurabi is like a blood-red wild beast, with 8 blood-red tails waving in the wind behind him. Kurabi is one of the few people who can maintain his will after the energy tail beast, and those dark black eyes stared at Uchiha Chen, roar. Even if he could maintain his will, Kurabi, who turned into a beast after seeing Uchiha Chen, couldn't help roaring at him, venting the depression in his heart. The roaring sound with a strong airflow blew Uchiha Chen's windbreaker, and it blew down countless tall and straight trees behind him. It seems ferocious and evil, but in fact it has no effect on Uchiha Chen. This bluffing roar is just the behavior of the weak. The strong never bother to do such behavior. The real strong will only give the enemy a fatal blow during the battle. Just like the villain dies of talking too much, the weak dies of pretending. Uchiha Chen hooked his finger at Kurabi, who turned into a tailed beast, as if to say let the horse come over. 440th Chapters. The Last Battle 2. It is said that the territoriality and inviolability of beasts are innate. Although Kurabi's consciousness is still controlled by himself, he has already been assimilated by the consciousness of the eight-tailed beast in his heart. That is to say, although Kurabi has consciousness at the moment, the irritable factor in his bones has been activated by the power of the eight tails. After seeing Uchiha Chen's blatant provocation, Kurabi couldn't help roaring, leaned forward, and bowed like a beast. Immediately, his legs sank and began to accumulate power, and suddenly he kicked hard. Bang! The legs touched the ground, and the strong friction made Kurabi's speed faster. With the advantage of his huge body, Kurabi only ran 2 steps before he came to Uchiha Chen. He roared at Uchiha Chen, raised a hand, and smashed it hard towards where Uchiha Chen was. Boom! Before Kurabi's big hand smashed on Uchiha Chen, he took the lead in retreating, barely avoiding Kurabi's attack. Chirabi's big hand slammed directly on the ground without any accident, making a loud noise and lifting up piles of dirt. The tailed beast turned. Kurabi narrowed his eyes, and at the moment Uchiha Chen flew into the air, he moved. The 8 tails behind him extended infinitely, and the tip of the tail actually became sharp, so he rushed straight towards Chen Uchiha, as if he wanted to use the tip of his tail to pierce directly through Chen Uchiha. Seeing the attack that rushed towards him like a net, Uchiha turned a blind eye, and stared at Kurabi, who was transformed into a tailed beast, and smiled. It seems that after the tailed beast, not only the strength has become stronger, the brain has also become a lot thicker. You idiot, asshole. It seems that he heard the sarcasm that Uchiha Chen expected, and Kurabi roared, and the speed of the tail extension became faster. But no matter how much he speeds up, how could it be possible that he would be too fast for Uchiha Chen, who had taken precautions? Chen used his finger as the sword to wave his right hand, and the blue chakra sword energy was like a half moon, and he cut off Kurabi's 8 tails with the power of destroying the dead and cutting off the 8 tails. Tree stumps with neat cross sections and tree trunks that were unfortunately affected and fell. 8 tails fell to the ground with a dull sound, and after several changes in energy, they turned into substantial octopus tentacles. The kaleidoscope writing wheel in Uchiha Chen's eyes slowly turned. Amaterasu. The ominous flames from the abyss directly burned all these tails to the ground. Uchiha Chen didn't forget that the 8 tails could perform the tentacle clone technique. As long as there are tentacles, you can use the tentacles to perform a clone technique, or even an avatar technique, without anyone noticing. Uchiha Chen also made the same mistakes as Nagato before, and of course he will not make the same mistakes now. The same trick will not work for Saint Seiya, and it is the same for Uchiha Chen here. The same trick won't work for Uchiha Chen. Chen stretched out a hand and pinched fiercely at the pile of burning octopus tentacles. The pile of octopus tentacles that were being scorched by the flame of Amaterasu seemed to disappear out of thin air. Disappeared in everyone's eyes. Now I see what tricks you have. Chen stared at Kurabi fiercely, and gave him a little light. Fengdun refines empty bombs. Bang! With a sound like a bullet popping into a cavity, a transparent gas bomb flashed away in the void. There was a smile on the corner of Uchiha Chen's mouth, and there was just a small hole in Kurabi's forehead opposite him. That's right, although the volume of the air refining bomb after Uchiha Chen's improvement is said to be smaller, the penetrating power and speed have been greatly improved, just like the hot weapon in the Naruto world. After being compressed and strengthened, it easily pierced the forehead of the tailed beast Kurabi. So, how? Uchiha Chen knew that such an attack alone was not enough to kill Kurabi, but all he wanted to do was to completely anger Kurabi, and then force him out of his full body. Sure enough, no matter who it is, as long as it is a tailed beast, the character will always be manic, not to mention the 8-tailed beast with a very hot personality. You must know that before meeting Kurabi, the people Zuli of the 8 Tails were often runaway. If it wasn't for the strong strength of the original 3 generations of Reikage, maybe Yunrin village would have been burned by the runaway 8 Tails. Now, after being provoked so strongly by Uchiha Chen, if he can still hold his breath, then it is not Yao. The 8 Tails in Kurabi's body roared, and they didn't care about the agreement with Kurabi. After knowing Kurabi in his heart, he took the initiative to start further tail beastization. Kurabi, who was wrapped in 8 tails, sighed softly. After realizing his anger, he did not stop him, but opened his heart to let 8 tails act. But there is no better way than to gamble on this one. 8 tails. Uncle Kurabi. Naruto's eyes widened, looking at the fully incarnated 8-tailed bull ghost. He was speechless for a while, and he didn't expect things to turn out like this. Naruto, seize the opportunity, take the opportunity to escape. The 9 tails in Naruto's body kept urging him, but Naruto didn't listen. No, since Uncle Kurabi has already done this, how can I escape again? Naruto, who escaped once, has already regarded it as the greatest shame of ninja. How could he leave Kurabi again? Run away. He threw away Chen's wooden clone with one hand, and Naruto looked at Kurabi with flickering eyes. In fact, he also wanted to fight Chen, but now he is very lucky to be unbeaten in the face of 3 wooden clones. Taking the time to help Chirabi. 8 tails, who were provoked and showed their complete body, crouched down and whimpered at Chen Uchiha in a low voice, as if sensing the threat level of this guy. 8 tails took 2 steps back and opened their mouths wide. The black and red chakras and the azure blue chakras gradually condensed. They gathered together according to the ratio of yin and yang chakras of 2:8. However, the use of 8 tails is many times faster than that of Naruto. In the blink of an eye, a huge-tailed beast jade has been formed. 8 tails faced Uchiha Chen, spit out the tailed beast jade, and rushed to Uchiha Chen with the power of destroying the sky and destroying the earth. Chapter 447, The Last Battle 3. Uchiha Chen looked indifferent, looking at the tailed beast jade that was coming towards him. Chen naturally would not be stupid enough to pick up the tailed beast jade again. People can have the first experience, which is called experiencing freshness, and it is called trying. But there cannot be a second time. The second time is called stupidity. I have already experienced the tailed beast jade once. After understanding the upper limit of his own defense power, Uchiha will of course not be stupid enough to face the powerful tailed beast jade, especially the 8-tailed beast jade. It is much stronger than the tailed beast jade released by Naruto before. With a flash, Uchiha Chen jumped into the air directly, avoiding the most direct impact of the tailed beast jade. The moment Uchiha dodged, the dark black tailed beast jade was like a punctured balloon, and in the blink of an eye, it exploded, and a huge dark black mushroom cloud instantly blew Uchi. The position where Bo Chen was located was swallowed up. The manic energy in the mushroom cloud is constantly tumbling and surging, and the aura of destruction is constantly rising and falling. As early as when the mushroom cloud began to spread, Uchiha Chen had already sensed something was wrong, and he seemed to have misestimated the attack range of this tailed beast jade. In a daze, he was swallowed by the mushroom cloud generated by the explosion of the tailed beast jade. Thanks to Chen subconsciously unfolding Susanoo, he was not affected by the energy generated by the explosion. And this kind of operation, I really underestimate you. Uchiha Chen slapped his mouth, touched his chin under Susanoo's defense, and couldn't help shaking his head. The cloud opened and the rain disappeared. After the dust settled, Uchiha Chen's figure appeared in front of the two again. Looking at Uchiha Chen's unharmed appearance, Naruto said that there was no fluctuation in his heart. After all, it has been proved before that the tailed beast jade does not work for him. Even if the 8-tailed beast jade is a little bigger and has a wider range, the result is actually the same. But Yahweh, who was burned in anger, didn't think so. Seeing that Uchiha Chen was actually unscathed, he roared at Uchiha Chen angrily, and then the energy in his mouth began to accumulate again. Is there any power left? It's really worthy of being the most perfect person. Uchiha Chen frowned. Although he didn't care about turning the 8 tails into a complete body, it was not his style to be beaten blindly. What is the difference between abuse? However, at this time, the tail beast jade in the mouth of the 8 tails has been formed again. It roared, and the tail beast jade in the mouth sprayed continuously towards Chen. That's right. At this moment, what Kurabi has condensed is not just a tailed beast jade. As the second strongest existence among the tailed beasts, he can also continuously spray the tailed beast jade like 9 tails. A piece of tailed beast jade spewed towards Uchiha Chen one after another, like a machine gun. Are you giving up the more powerful condensing time in exchange for faster speed? It's interesting. Uchiha Chen closed his eyes, and then opened them suddenly. The eternal kaleidoscope writing wheel in his eyes was long gone, replaced by the reincarnation eye representing the power of the 6 immortals. I saw that he stretched out his hand and made a gesture of resistance to the tailed beast jade that was flying towards him one after another. Hungry ghosts absorb. In the surprised eyes of Yatai and Naruto, all the tailed beast jades were absorbed by the power of Uchiha Chen Hungry Ghost Realm. Do you think I really can't do anything about you? Chen looked at Yahweh with a faint smile. Then he threw his hand at him. Your things, return to you. A tailed beast jade that is larger than all the tailed beast jades combined returned to the 8 tails. Uchiha Chen's hand shook slightly, and 3 wooden clones were separated again. At the same time, the 3 wooden clones who were fighting Naruto also stopped attacking. After seeing the tailed beast jade entering the attack range, he suddenly patted the ground. The formation of the 6 red suns. Compared with the original Konoha collapse plan, the power of the 4 scarlet sun formation is higher than that of the original Konoha collapse plan. Uncle Kurabi. Let you have a good taste of your own tailed beast jade. Looking at the 8 tails who kept screaming in the 6 Chiong formation, Uchiha Chen smiled contemptuously. Although the strength of Kurabi after the tail beast transformation is indeed amazing, it is not at all in the face of Chen who has been integrated with 10 tails and promoted to 6 paths. What kind of? After a long time, the screams in the array finally stopped, but the power of the explosion was far from stopping. Although Naruto outside was worried, he could only act in a hurry. Uncle Kurabi! Uncle Kurabi! Naruto shouted loudly inside, but there was no response at all. Maybe Yao had already passed out in the explosion, or maybe he died in the explosion. How could he hear Naruto's voice? Damn it! Naruto clenched his fists tightly, and the expression on his face became extremely sad and angry. It seemed that there were tears in his eyes, and Naruto sniffed hard. In the end, he couldn't hold back, and tears flowed down his nose. If it wasn't for me, if it wasn't for my willfulness, how could Uncle Kurabi be like this? Every time, lustful immortals, everyone in the village. Naruto's mood became extremely unstable, his eyes began to become cruel and cold, and the eyes he looked at Uchiha Chen were not peaceful as before. It seems that because of Kurabi's incident, he thought of Uchiha Chen's invasion of Konoha. Naruto's emotions were gradually replaced by something called anger. Damn! Naruto's eyes were gradually replaced by animal pupils, and the originally stable tail animalization pattern also began to fluctuate. Naruto slowly stretched out 9 tails behind him, and the whole person lay on the ground. The body began to swell, and the huge-tailed beast chakra wrapped Naruto's body. The prototype was obviously the energy 9 tails with 9 tails stretched out. Naruto, who had been swept away by anger, had no one around him to stop him at this moment, and he roared at Chen Uchiha who had completely turned into a beast. In its eyes, only Uchiha Chen is his worst enemy in this space, and the only remaining thought tells him to kill Uchiha Chen, to kill Uchiha Chen. The unconscious Naruto, or the 9 tails roared up to the sky, squatted down, rubbed one foot on the ground, and seemed ready to rush over. This is unbearable, Uchiha Chen chuckled. You are still the same as before, but you don't know that you are the most insecure and unstable variable in the whole world. Speaking of which, Uchiha Chen was affectionate and serious, and snorted at Naruto. 448 chapters. inexplicable heart palpitations. For Naruto, the son of destiny who was 100% unexpected, Chen also dared not be too contemptuous, otherwise he would not have directly abolished Naruto at the very beginning. However, looking at Naruto Uzumaki, who once again burst into vitality with the support of the Nine Tails, Chen Uchiha is not surprised at all. If he can't do this, then he is not worthy of being called a ninja with a 100% degree of surprise. For a guy like Naruto, either he has absolute strength and is not afraid of his revenge, or he must be killed or controlled as soon as possible. Obviously, Uchiha Chen belongs to the former. With his strength, he is really not afraid of what damage the current Naruto will cause him. The corners of Chen's clothes moved automatically without the wind, and his body gradually rose up into the air as if it was not affected by gravity, until he just happened to be looking directly at the beast-like Nine Tails. Glancing at the beast roaring at him with disdain, the kaleidoscope writing wheel in Uchiha Chen's pupils enlarged infinitely, and in the eyes of Juwei, the whole world seemed to be composed of Chen's kaleidoscope writing wheel. In the end, Chen chose to use the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye pupil technique. There was no point in bullying the two who lost their minds, and the two of them, especially Kurabi, couldn't squeeze out more powerful strength. It's just a waste of time to stay. The pupils of the kaleidoscope shaker eye are infinitely enlarged in Juwei's eyes, forcibly tying him into this world. No matter how much it roars and roars, there is no way to break through the control of Uchiha Chen's kaleidoscope shaker. Gradually, the enraged Nine Tails seemed to accept their fate, restrained their minions and lowered their head. However, the unwillingness revealed in those ferocious eyes showed the resentment in Nine Tails' hearts very well. It's not that he doesn't want to make trouble anymore, but it's meaningless. Now Uchiha Chen's pupil power has already surpassed Uchiha Madara back to a certain extent. No matter how much trouble the Nine Tails continue, there will be no chance to be able to break free, and now that the Nine Tails are parasitic in Naruto's body, Naruto has already been squeezed out of his body's chakra and vitality by Uchiha Chen. If he continues to make trouble, it is very likely that Naruto's body will not be able to bear it directly. Exploding to death, and the nine-tailed symbiosis in Naruto's body will definitely not be much better. Rather than struggling like this, it's better to just admit it, because he didn't sense the murderous aura towards Naruto from Uchiha Chen. Only when Uchiha Chen faced Kurabi did the Nine Tails sense a faint touch from him. Murderousness. I knew this earlier, why was it in the first place? Uchiha Chen saw that Nine Tails wisely chose to back down and nodded in satisfaction, but at this moment, Uchiha Chen's heart suddenly tightened. Dong dong. The sudden heart palpitations made Uchiha Chen's movements stagnate. He frowned slightly. Dong dong. The same heart palpitations struck again, and Uchiha Chen couldn't help but reach out to cover his heart. Since what happened 10 years ago, Uchiha Chen has never felt this kind of heart palpitations again. Now this kind of palpitations suddenly hit, something important must have happened. For masters, even if they do not have the ability to predict the future, they can still perceive the coming of the crisis. This is not about life and death, knowing the future, but as masters, they have a unique understanding of the sixth sense, or it can be said that this is the unique ability that they possess only when they have successfully cultivated and understood the world. Boom. When the feeling of heart palpitations came again, Uchiha Chen finally couldn't ignore it. The feeling of heart palpitations is getting stronger and stronger every time, which means that the level of crisis in the premonition is escalating again and again. Uchiha thought that the person who could hurt him in this Naruto world has not yet appeared, so it is clear that the crisis heralded by the heart palpitations this time is not on him. And now the two people in front of him, one is still suffering from the destruction of his own tail beast Jade in the 6 red sun array, and the other is controlled by Uchiha Chen's kaleidoscope shaker eyeball technique, who can threaten him and not nearby. The sound of the explosion in the 6 red sun formation finally stopped. After all the dust settled, Uchiha Chen's wooden avatar scattered away from the 6 red sun formation. Having been beaten back to its original shape, the charred Kurabi, whose body was burned by the explosion, collapsed on the ground weakly, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Uchiha Chen raised his brows, his fingertips were full of breath, and there was a faint destructive force. For Kurabi, whose life and death were uncertain, Chen decided that it would be better to give him a knife. After all, this guy was too capable of living. Not only Nagato didn't catch him, but Leonchin himself was put on the line by Kurabi, and he could only rest assured when he saw him destroy Uchiha Chen with his own eyes. Boom, boom, boom. The palpitations kept coming, even stronger than all the times before, almost causing Uchiha Chen to throw the smoky breath in his hand. Today's wind is very noisy. Uchiha Chen raised his head and looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, and sighed. If there is no wind and no waves, if there is no black hand behind it to push him to death, Uchiha Chen would not believe it. Since it wasn't his own fault, don't think about the result, it must be someone he cares about, and this person who cares about, besides Makoto back then, is now Ino alone. In addition to the two of them, Sasuke and Itachi can only be counted as half, but Itachi is already dead, and there are not many people in Sasuke's world who can threaten him. Using the method of exclusion, we know that there are 9 out of 10 people who are from Ino. Something went wrong. After all, since Ino left, he has been rushing back to the battlefield non-stop. In that fast-changing place, even the second-generation Hokage has no way to ensure his safety and be stopped by others, not to mention Ino, who can only be counted as ninja strength. Uchiha Chen sighed lightly. He could probably guess who was the mastermind behind the incident. If he guessed correctly, it was probably the big snake who did it. He had learned the magic of immortals and was able to reincarnate in the past. However, he has begun to have his own careful thinking, instead of being as conscientious in front of him as before. I don't know whether to live or die. Uchiha Chen snorted coldly, and threw the dense breath at Kurabi Yutai, and flew away without even looking at the results. Chapter 449, Ino's Situation. However, what Uchiha didn't expect was that it was actually not the case. Tu didn't think about so many issues, and he didn't know the relationship between Ino and Uchiha, and he didn't specifically target Ino. It is conceivable that a beautiful misunderstanding caused the impression of Orochimaru in Uchiha Chen's heart to decline again. In fact, it doesn't matter whether it falls or not, Orochimaru won't care even if he knows about it. Because, what he may face next is the sanctions from the 2 brothers of the Uchiha clan, and he has no intention of worrying about other aspects of the battle. Uchiha Chen, who was constantly walking, began to gallop in the direction of Ino after slightly sensing the direction of Ino. At this time, Uchiha Chen couldn't help but scolded in his heart, because he was too entangled in this matter when he left Ino, and did not attach the Flying Thunder God's technique to Ino, so now he can only rush all the way. This is not the case. With the technique of Flying Thunder God, Uchiha Chen can come to Ino's side in an instant. He let out a sigh of relief and threw out the kunai in his hand. Uchiha Chen's figure once again disappeared in place. Now, if you want to get past this distance, you can only use the Flying Thunder God as the fastest way, and abilities such as the virtual power are completely useless when you are on the road, and other means are too slow. Wait for me, Ino. Uchiha Chen gritted his teeth and said in his heart. At this moment, he very much hopes that he can combine the power of the Samsara Eye with the power of the Kaleidoscope Writing Wheel Eye and the 10 Tails, so that Chen, who has the Samsara Eye of Jugo Jade, can use space teleportation to go directly to Ino. At the same time, Ino, who was on the battlefield, was almost unable to hold on at this moment. She gasped fiercely and forced herself to squeeze her chakra. In front of her was Shikamaru, who had fallen into a coma and had stagnant chakra. It's already Dingji. What she has to do now is to forcibly guide the movement of the chakras of Shikamaru and Dingji with her own chakra. As her most trusted teammate since childhood, Ino will save them even if she drains the chakra from her body. Is there still no news from the headquarters? Ino didn't even care to wipe the sweat on his face, rolled his eyelids slightly, and asked the ninja beside him. She is very tired now, but there is no way. Ino must do it. She is the only medical ninja here, and the only one who can keep their life running. There is no news for now. The ninja shook his head. looked at Ino, who looked exhausted and seemed to have reached his limit, and said softly, "Take a rest. If you continue like this, not only will the two of them have an accident, but even you will be overdrafted." Chakra and died. Quote. This time, Ino didn't even bother to roll his eyelids, and said weakly, "No, no one can save them except me. I can only come, I can persist, and wait for the news from the headquarters." However, at this moment, the ninja next to him suddenly showed a sinister smile and made marks on his hands. The great breakthrough of the Wind Dungeons. Oops. Because of the reason why both hands were still transmitting chakra to Shikamaru and Dingji, Ino was in a period of no resistance at the moment, and he never thought that the person beside him would actually be a clone of Baiju. Not good. Ino. Damn. In the face of everyone's anger, Ino, who had no way to move, forcibly ate the big breakthrough of the pretender Baiju. Ah. Ino couldn't help screaming. Feng Dun kept cutting and tearing her body. Her clothes had already become worn out under the ravages of Feng Dun. Not only that, Feng Dun's power continued to tear her. Bloody openings appeared from Ino, and they continued to increase and expand. In fact, Ino can dodge completely. Although she consumes too much chakra, she can still dodge the enemy's wind. However, in front of him are Shikamaru and Dingji, who are in a coma and whose life and death are uncertain. If Ino escapes, the wind will definitely hit Shikamaru and Dingji, not only to increase their injuries. If they leave the treatment of Ino chakra, the two are bound to fall into direct death due to chakra stagnation. In fact, Ino had no other choice. When she chose to save Shikamaru and Dingji, she had no choice. After she ate the attack of the pretender Baiju, Ino held back the food in her throat. With a mouthful of blood, he still insisted on delivering chakra to the two. Damn. Quick, protect Ino. At this time, everyone had a chance to react. Taking advantage of the free time when the pretender Baiju was performing ninjutsu, they stepped forward and directly suppressed Baiju's clone, and the result was a knife. Cough. Ino couldn't help coughing twice, and the blood that had been swallowed by her could not help spurting out along with her coughing breath. Ino, it's really not good, forget it. One person stepped forward and couldn't help but want to pat Ino on the shoulder. Stop. Ino's hoarse voice stopped the man's movements. Don't come here, don't come over, don't come near me. Ino, who had already suffered a loss, wisely stopped everyone. You all stand back and pay attention to the distance between you. No one can guarantee that the people around you will not be enemies. Please keep your distance. Resisting the discomfort, Ino once again focused his attention on Shikamaru and Dingji. After all, there was no such thing as controlling chakra into the two of them, except that she, as a medical ninja, could do it. Others can do it. However, even so, Ino needs to spend a lot of energy to concentrate on it, and if there is a little distraction, it will inevitably cause the chakra to run poorly and stagnate. Please stand where you are, protect yourself, and don't act lightly. If someone acts at will, we may not be able to regard him as an enemy. Ino, who coughed out a mouthful of blood again, insisted and said. She will not give up the two of them. They are companions. Even at the last moment, they should not give up their companions. This is their criterion and Konoha's will of fire. Good news. Good news. What's wrong? There is news from the headquarters. We already know what is going on, and now there is news from the headquarters. Hearing this, Ino's pale face couldn't help but bring up a reluctant smile. Finally got the news from the headquarters. Chapter 450, The Last Minute. Has the news finally come from the headquarters? Ino breathed a sigh of relief. If it was normal, there would be no problem at all. However, she is currently maintaining life activities in Shikamaru and Dingji. Because of Ino's relaxation, not only was there a problem with the flow of chakra, but Ino himself almost collapsed because he was too relaxed. Ino pursed her lips. She was able to persevere, but she finally let go of the worry in her heart. Ino, can you hear me, Ino? I can hear it. Ino closed his eyes, responding in his heart to the news from her father, Kaiichi Yamanaka, from the headquarters. We probably learned about Shikamaru and the others from the huge database at the headquarters. Why? They are now in a state where their bodies and souls are separated, and their souls are forcibly pulled away, so the chakra of the whole person is in a stagnant state. Then what are we going to do? Ino's eyes lit up. Now that he knew what happened to Shikamaru Tetsuji and the others, it would be much simpler for the current situation. It's very simple, just give back the souls of Shikamaru and the others. As long as someone can connect to them, they can be brought back directly. Yamanaka Haiichi's voice kept prompting in Ino's mind. Hearing the news from her father, the sadness on Ino's face became lighter and lighter until it finally disappeared. However, she did not hear the faint helplessness in her father's mouth. Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and save them. Our headquarters are also trying to find a way. The key is that we can't find the location of Shikamaru's soul. We guess that their souls have been introduced into an enchantment, but we don't know where the enchantment is. When Ino heard his father's words, it was as if he had been splashed with cold water, and his originally excited eyes gradually dimmed. Yeah, the soul of a person really doesn't know where it will go once it leaves the body. Ino murmured to himself. Immediately, she raised her head, her teeth were close to her lips, and a trace of scarlet blood flowed down Ino's teeth, and Ino, who regained consciousness from the pain of the cracked lips, gritted her teeth word by word. No matter what, I will save them back. Yes, even if it is to find a soul. We also want to save them, but we have no way to start. We have no way to determine their location at all. No, Ino muttered to himself, and then increased the output of chakra to show his determination. There must be a way. After confirming the contact with the headquarters at any time, Ino ignored anyone and concentrated on Shikamaru and Choji. It's alright, it will be alright. Just like we believed in you, now it's your turn to believe in me, and I'll stick with it until you all come back. In the middle of conveying chakra, because he couldn't be distracted, and there was no way to spare his hands, Ino couldn't even eat the ration pills in his pocket. If it was other times, Ino could ask others to help feed the cloves, but now is just right. In the period when Baiju's clones were raging, no one could guarantee whether the other party was his own or not. In this case, Ino did not dare to let others approach him. Even so, there are still hidden Baiju clones who want to approach Ino and attack. There is no way, they can only spread out as much as possible, and then stay vigilant to prevent someone from coming forward and trying to take advantage of the opportunity to harm Ino. However, in a place that people didn't see, the ninja standing at the back quietly put his hand into the ninja bag, and without everyone knowing it, he hid the kunai in his hand. He nodded at the person next to him without leaving any traces, and suddenly shouted under the tacit understanding of the two of them, "You. What are you going to do?" The ninja pointed at the man he just indicated, and everyone's eyes were immediately on the man, but under the circumstance that everyone was surrounded by him, they never noticed that the corner of this guy's mouth had evoked a strange smile. Diverting everyone's attention, the ninja took the opportunity to stomp his feet, hold the kunai in his hand and run forward. Obviously, his target is Ino. It's not good. It's a trick to turn the tiger away from the mountain. Damn, I didn't expect the enemy to be so cunning. Be careful. Just as Ino watched the guy grinning, grabbing the kunai in his hand and stabbing at her. Are you going to die? When the people around didn't react at all, the words that appeared in Ino's mind happened to be, Chen. I am sorry. Before everyone had time, that guy, or the Shirai avatar who had returned to his original appearance, held kunai and was about to send it into Ino's chest. Just at this critical moment, a burst of snowflakes suddenly floated in the sky for some unknown reason. Immediately, a piercing chill flooded everyone's heart. Die! A thunderous roar resounded in the air. When the Kuukenkin in Baiju's clone was about to arrive in front of Ino, his body seemed to be suppressed at the moment, and he couldn't move at all. The expression on his face, followed by a scream, and his entire body was suddenly swallowed up by a cloud of black flames. Chen, Ino's eyes lit up when she heard this familiar voice. She seemed to be in the desert of despair and suddenly met someone from an oasis. This familiar voice was the best comfort and response for Ino. When everyone was silent, Uchiha Chen slowly landed from the air, and then set his eyes on Ino. When he saw the bloody wound on her body, his originally gentle eyes suddenly became extremely cold. The air solidified again. The people who were hovering between the sudden cold and the heat did not dare to resist the extremely powerful Uchiha Chen at the moment, and even those Baiju clones who were just about to move temporarily restrained their minions. "What's the matter?" Uchiha Chen's faint voice echoed in everyone's ears. Although the tone was very flat, everyone could feel that there was a trace of uncontrollable anger under Uchiha Chen's calm face at the moment. "Yes, those white enemies disguised as us." Then, even when they knew that Uchiha Chen was also their enemy, there were still people who couldn't withstand Chen's too strong pressure and were forced to speak to Uchi. Pochin explained. "A white enemy." Uchiha Chen frowned, and then laughed angrily. "Haha, okay, what a white enemy. Baiju's clone. It seems that just killing your body doesn't have a long memory." Quote. Chapter 451, The Way to Rescue. Uchiha Chen is in an extremely irritable mood now. If it wasn't for the fact that Ino was by his side now, he might have killed everyone here in a fit of rage. In Chen's eyes, all the people here are not as important as a single hair in Ino. Glancing at Ino, who was obviously relieved, Uchiha Chen snorted coldly, and then a few thorns rose up when he chopped the ground under his feet, and there were endless screams from the ninja coalition camp. "Chen." Ino looked at Uchiha Chen in panic. Although Chen's arrival made her feel very satisfied, she didn't want to see Uchiha Chen fighting with her comrades, at least in a place she couldn't see. "Don't worry," Chen replied lightly, "those are all Baiju's clones." Sure enough, those ninjas killed by Uchiha Chen's thrusts gradually revealed their original white-gray prototypes. A huge tree grew out of their bodies behind them. Without exception, everyone killed by Uchiha Chen is actually a clone of Baiju, which is incredible. They worked so hard to find an enemy they couldn't find for a long time, but they were killed by Uchiha Chen so easily. "Okay, Baiju's clone was killed by me," Uchiha Chen said indifferently. "Come with me, it's not safe here anymore, now it's just Baiju's clone, and there may be more powerful enemies in the future. I don't trust you. He still cares about me." Ino's heart was as sweet as eating honey when she heard Uchiha Chen's words. Originally, she thought that Chen would ignore her after she made a decision in the wooden house. She has already done it. Psychological preparation for confrontation with Chen in the future. But I didn't expect that Chen would be able to travel thousands of miles to take her away, but, no. Ino smiled and shook his head, looking at Uchiha Chen as if he was looking at his husband. Although Ino was very weak at this time, he still cheered up and said firmly, "No, I am Konoha's ninja. A member of the Ninja Alliance. I must contribute my strength to the village. This is my duty, I can't stay out of it. I hope you can understand me." "Hey Tilda, I already knew you would say that." Chen sighed slightly. He had expected this result long ago, but he still wanted to try it. Ino had her insistence, and Chen was also an opinionated person, so after he failed to persuade him once, he stopped talking. He squatted down and began to use wooden chakra to heal Ino's injuries. Although Ino could heal himself after the incident, Chen didn't want to see his sweetheart's scarred appearance. Moreover, according to the therapeutic effect, the wooden chakra is much stronger than the medical ninjutsu, and it does not even leave scars, and can restore the vitality and chakra in the body. In this regard, Chen did not hesitate to increase the output of chakra. The warm wooden chakra lingered in Ino's body, and the warm breath made her almost groan out. In a short while, the wounds left by the wind on Ino's body were healed. Chen tore off the cloak from his body, gently covered it on Ino's exquisite body, and secretly set up the Flying Thunder God technique on her body. Okay. After Chen's wooden chakra dispersed, Ino's face showed a slightly disappointed and reluctant expression, and Chen couldn't help smiling secretly in his eyes. It seemed that she had thought of something, and after recovering her spirit, Ino realized that she was maintaining Shikamaru and Dingji's vital signs. Because of Chen's arrival, she subconsciously ignored the two of them. By the way, Chen. Can you help me? Ino looked at Chen Uchiha with a pleading look on his face. No. Chen. No. He's my buddy, and you've been with us at the ninja school before. If something happens to you, I will come over even from the ends of the earth, but other people's affairs have nothing to do with me. Although Ino was very moved by Yu Chen's concern and concern for her, what she hoped at the moment was that Chen could save Shikamaru Choji, and Neji and Yahu were in another battlefield. He couldn't help blushing, and then he gritted his teeth and said softly, "If you take action, how about I go to your place to accompany you tonight?" Chen raised his eyebrows. As someone who has come here, of course he knows what Ino means. He must know that he was a little virgin in his previous life, and he has had such a wonderful night with Ino in this life. As Chen who has just experienced this kind of taste, of course, he wants to get more times. But he won't go to force Ino, and he won't go outside to find it casually. After all, with his current strength and status, isn't it easy to get a woman if he wants? For example, Xiaonan, such as those female ninjas in Tianzhiguo. Not so good. Chen looked down at Ino, turned to look at Shikamaru and Dingji before her face changed, and said casually, 2 nights. Ino was stunned for a moment, then reacted, couldn't help but secretly smiled, looking at his lover, his eyes were full of tenderness. Their chakras are stagnant. Look at this, the soul is not in the body. Uchiha Chen opened the kaleidoscope and said to Ino after careful observation. Ino nodded, not surprised that Chen could see it. After all, Chen has a kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. As one of the 3 major pupil techniques in this world, this ability is still there. The headquarters also said that their souls were sealed by a special sealing technique. Now their souls should be in an enchantment, but we have no way to find that enchantment. Chen stood up and nodded, then quietly asked the system, "What the hell is this?" "Ding," answered the host, "they are caught in the Yellow Spring reincarnation technique." Wangquan reincarnation technique. Ding, that's right. It is to drag the human soul into the enchantment until the soul is extinguished or the physical chakra stagnates, otherwise there will never be a way to escape. What the hell? Then how can we save it? There's no way to save it. Are we waiting to die? Ding. This is just the conclusion the system has come to after analyzing their combat effectiveness. According to their combat effectiveness, they can't break free from the Wangquan reincarnation technique by themselves, unless there is external help. External force. That means it can be saved. Then how can I save them? Chen touched his chin and said thoughtfully. Ding. Looking for the host. The first method. Exchange for spiritualization. Go out of the body to search for the location of the enchantment, and then forcefully break the enchantment. The second method. Exchange for Uchiha Fuyu's kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. Use the ability of the writing wheel eye, let your soul fully see the future, see where the barrier is, and forcibly break it. Quote. Chapter 452. See through the falsehood and gain insight into the future. Fuyu. Uchiha Chen frowned, and then he seemed to think of something, and said with a sigh of relief, "Is my father's kaleidoscope writing wheel eye?" Ding, that's right. For so many years, people in the world thought that Shisui and Itachi were the first people to open the kaleidoscope writing wheel after Uchiha Madara, but this is not the case. As early as the Third Ninja War, Uchiha Fuyu has successfully opened the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. His left eye is Amaterasu in the same line, while the ability of his right eye is to see through the future, see through the illusion, and strengthen the soul. This is also why Itachi, who already had a kaleidoscope when he talked to Itachi, couldn't find Fuyu's avatar, because his soul was strengthened, and because he was able to see through the future, he knew that their coup was doomed to fail, so he was so calm. Face Itachi, face death. Is that so? Uchiha Chen nodded thoughtfully. No wonder he felt that Uchiha Fuyu was a bit complicated at first, and even he did not dare to use the system too grandly in front of Fuyu. It turned out that Uchiha Fuyu was faintly the sense of oppression brought him as here. It's not that Uchiha Chen was cowardly, but Uchiha Fuyu's pressure is too great. Even if Chen has the golden finger of the system, he is still just a little kid. In front of Fuyu, who has a kaleidoscope writing wheel, there is no resistance. Although Chen, as Fuyu's son, would not be harmed, it was due to the inherent oppression of the upper kaleidoscope writing wheel eye to the lower Guyu writing wheel eye. Unless they have the same eyes, in front of the kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes, all the Guyu writing wheel eyes will be suppressed and unable to perform at their normal level. This is also the reason why the kaleidoscope shaker eye is called the strongest eye of the Uchiha family. Uchiha Chen frowned slightly. Is there no other solution? Ding! Insufficient permissions, temporarily unable to unlock more items. Hey! Uchiha opened his mouth and laughed dumbly. If he didn't know that there are other new worlds waiting for him in the future, maybe Chen would have grabbed the system and asked what was going on with the lack of permissions. After all, Hokage is only the first world at the beginning. It is normal for the system to have restrictions, which is also in Chen's consideration. How many points are needed for spiritualization? Ding! Answer the host. Spiritualization involves the taboo of the soul, and it takes 50,000 points to redeem. 500,000. Chen lowered his head and thought about it for a while. The current points are not difficult for him to collect. 50,000 points are just trivial. He hesitated to choose to exchange spiritualization technique. After all, he had no other choice, and Kato Dan's secret technique was quite attractive to him. However, now the system has given two methods, especially the other one that makes him particularly concerned, Uchiha Fuyu's eyes. This is not a joke. In Chen's previous life, no one knew what Uchiha Fuyu's eyes were. What ability? Even Kishi did not make a corresponding announcement at the beginning, so Uchiha Fugaku's eyes have always been a mystery. By the way, doesn't it mean that you can perceive the existence of that enchantment by sensing malice? Uchiha Chen suddenly thought, but he gave up after a while, because he saw the answer given by the system, and when he turned on the six-path mode, he could perceive the existence of maliciousness. Now Chen doesn't want others to know that he can already use the six-path mode, although everyone agrees. Announced. System, I choose the second option, exchange my father's eyes. Ding! It takes 100,000 points to exchange for Uchiha Fugaku's eyes. Do you want to confirm the exchange? Confirm. Chen nodded. Since he has already decided to exchange it, he should just be a little bit quicker. Anyway, it won't hurt to exchange it. Ding! I'm covering the host's abilities. Chen only felt that there was a mysterious power in his eyes, and a cool feeling covered Chen's eyes, and the eyes that were a little tired from using the pupil technique were relieved accordingly. You must know that although the vision of the eternal kaleidoscope shaker eye will not decrease, the eyes will still be tired when using the pupil technique, but this kind of fatigue is tolerable. Not long after, Chen slowly opened his eyes. The crooked moon and the sun together is called the sun and the moon together, and in Chen's eyes flashed 3 kaleidoscope writing wheel marks of the sun and the moon. That's right, this is Uchiha Fuyu's kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. The 3 scarlet dots are separated by 3 curved lines, and the sign of the sun and the moon is exactly the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye of Uchiha Fuyu. Chen's expression was in a trance for a while, as if he had seen something incredible. He opened his lips lightly, wanting to say something, but his mouth was open for a long time but he didn't know how to speak. In the end, all the words turned into a sentence of helplessness. Chen sighed lightly and muttered to himself, "Is this why you chose to give up?" Fuyu, father. After obtaining the ability of these eyes, Chen suddenly understood why Uchiha Fuyu chose to give up, because the ability of these eyes is too strong. Sure enough, it is a power that is in the same blood. It can be said that the ability of the kaleidoscope to write round eyes is not only related to one's own will, but also related to blood and talent. Just like Itachi and Amaterasu, who is in the same line of Sasuke, Uchiha Fuyu's eyes also have this ability, but this is not the reason for Chen's surprise, but the ability of his other eye, which can be called seeing through the future, seeing through false ability. It is simply the strongest cheating device. Like Chen's own eyes, it controls the laws of time. If the time stagnation of Chen's eyes belongs to manipulating the present time, then Fuyu's eyes to see through the future belong to manipulating the future time. If you are going back in time, then Chen will be in complete control of the past, present, and future time, and it can be said that he truly controls the law of time. There is a way. After doing all this, Chen squinted his eyes and said to Ino. Really? As time passed, Ino, who saw that Uchiha Chen had been silent, had already lost hope, but he didn't expect Chen to say there was a way at the end. This is not a kind of despair. To hope. Yeah, Chen nodded slightly, then looked at Ino with a half smile, and said, remember what you promised me, I'll go back when I go, and I'll pick you up at night. Saying that, ignoring Ino's blushing face at the moment, he squeezed pinching her face, she gradually vacated and flew away into the distance. Chapter 453, Inside the Barrier. Be careful. Ino stood up, but her hands still did not stop treating Shikamaru and Dingji. She saw her face flushed red, her red lips parted slightly, and she took a deep breath and said loudly to Uchiha Chen, also, I wish you a prosperous martial arts. This kind of blessing like a wife seems to have exhausted all the strength of the whole body. After speaking, he squatted down softly and blushed. He didn't pay attention to the surprise on other people's faces at all. Notice the abnormality in their expressions. How could Uchiha Chen help her, or Konoha, and why does their relationship seem a little delicate? Ino, who was in a shy state, didn't notice this, but it didn't mean that other careful Konoha ninjas didn't notice it. Looking at other village ninjas who were talking and even quietly distanced themselves from them, these careful Konoha ninjas, he shook his head helplessly. You must know that in the 5 ninja villages present, which ninja village has not been attacked by Uchiha? The most important thing is that Uchiha Chen originally went out from Konoha village. Knowing that he is still a little unclear with Konoha, this is simply a betrayal to the ninjas in other villages. They fought to the death there, and here they shook hands and made peace. In fact, as Konoha, the ninja is also confused about the current situation. Uchiha Chen's defection is 100% confirmed, but his relationship with the girl of the mountain family, that is, the Yamanaka Ino in front of him, is somewhat unclear. In the previous battle with the Golden Horn and the Silver Horn, Uchiha Chen rescued Yamanaka Ino, and Ino came back the next day. If there was nothing tricky about it, they would not believe it. However, in their capacity, it is not easy to remind Ino of anything. They can only watch silently, bear it, and then touch the blessings and curses. Chen, who was already floating in the air, heard Ino exhorting him to bless him like his wife, and the corners of his mouth could not help but rise slightly, evoking a beautiful arc. Next, it's time to find them. As he said that, Chen's eyes narrowed in a kaleidoscope, and he slowly revealed the deterrence it should have. Change. Uchiha Chen's right eye was aching for a while. This powerful pupil technique of manipulating time and manipulating the future was a little difficult even for him to perform. It was because of this that his surprise at Uchiha Fuyu increased again. Like throwing a stone into water, a layer of ripples swayed from Uchiha Chen as the center toward the surroundings, and it was continuously passed to the distance. It seemed slow, but in fact it was fast. In less than half a cup of tea, the ripples disappeared in front of Uchiha Chen's eyes. I don't know how long it took, but Uchiha Chen, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes. He looked sharply at the position on his left, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. I finally found it, where is it? Quote. Saying that, Uchiha Chen stepped out with one foot, and then his body disappeared in place with a swoosh, and when he appeared again, it was already 1,000 meters away. After exchanging Uchiha Fuyu's eyes, Chen feels that not only his soul has been strengthened to a certain extent, but his body and ninjutsu have also been strengthened in a small degree. At the time, it is obvious that the distance of movement is much farther, and the grasp of space is also clearer. But in an instant, Uchiha Chen found the barrier that imprisoned all the souls of Shikamaru and Choji. Uchiha Chen stood in the air, looking at the enchantment technique that looked like an eyeball in front of him. Uchiha Chen smiled lightly, and then stepped out, The whole person seemed to be in a virtual state, ignoring the blocking effect of the enchantment, and went deeper into the boundary. In the Scarlet Enchantment, they saw Shikamaru Doji and the other four were struggling with the sound of the four people. At this time, they had already learned from the sound of the four people what was going on in this place. In this Wongquan reincarnation technique, it is just wishful thinking for them to escape. The only thing they can do is to stay deadlocked with them and wait for the rescue from the headquarters. Tooth, who was forced back again, shook his head, spat out a mouthful of blood, and looked at Shikamaru. How is it, have you come up with a solution? To be honest, not really. Shikamaru shook his head and answered Tooth's question honestly. He has never been so helpless like today. He has no clue at all in this place. What if the enemy is defeated? As the flesh of the reincarnation of the dirty earth, in this Wongquan reincarnation technique, they are the body of immortality. The infinite chakra and the body that will never bleed. No matter how you look at it, it does not seem that reckless fighting can be effective. Be careful, Shikamaru gasped in a low voice after he gritted his teeth and used the shadow restraint technique to bring back Dingji, who had gone deep into the enemy camp. Now that the four people on the opposite side have become much smarter, he can no longer use the same trick to deal with the four of them now. After the same trick is used, people will be vigilant. It is really too much to want to work. Difficult. Damn. Tooth waved his hand fiercely and said in frustration, isn't there any way to do it? Calm down. Neji raised his alarm. Now is an important juncture in the battle with the enemy. Don't say such depressing words, and... He looked at Shikamaru's position. I believe Lumaru, there must be a way. Feeling the trust from his comrades, Shikamaru felt something called emotion arise in his heart. Are you still willing to follow my command? Even if my battle plan made such a big mistake. Dingji stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder and interrupted Shikamaru. This is not like you. Besides, wasn't your plan the best plan? The only way we can work is not you. Have you figured it out? Give it your all, and we will strictly enforce it. Quote. Everyone. Shikamaru glanced at the three of them and looked at the encouragement called trust in the eyes of his companions. He couldn't help but pursed his lips. Well, now I will continue to command the battle. Remember to ensure your own life. This one has already been said before. Everything takes safety first. Quote. The four of Yinin, who were opposite them, saw that the four of Shikamaru did not rush over as recklessly as before, but hid there and didn't know what to talk about. They couldn't help frowning, and Taiyu also sneered. Hey, what are you mumbling and saying again, afraid? Then go ahead and capture it. We're not scared anymore. Chapter 454, Unexpected Reinforcements. Shikamaru looked at the four of them, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly and sneered. Who said we were afraid? Don't come out to scare people who have died, a bunch of idiots. When the four of them heard it, they were furious and shouted at Shikamaru, you bastard, are you courting death? Sukamaru, Ninki and others are also curious, why Shikamaru has been provoking the four of them all the time, even though he is already at a disadvantage, but he still has to forcefully provoke others, isn't this killing himself? Don't talk, or you come with me, don't ask me why, if you still believe me, follow me, and I will give you a satisfactory explanation later. Hearing what Shikamaru said, they had already said this, so they didn't have anything else to say. The meaning of ridicule, even if they are now scarred, can't stop it. Seeing that Shikamaru and the others didn't know what was wrong, Tayuya and the others suddenly became very arrogant, and they couldn't help feeling unhappy in their hearts. What, you bastards? You are at a disadvantage now, why are you able to mock us so calmly? I think you are really tired of living, so die for me. Speaking of which, Gatonmaru's face was hideous, he spat out 3 arrows and shot them at Shikamaru and the others. Hey, you're shooting there. Are you blind or haven't eaten enough? Shikamaru's expression remained unchanged after escaping the attack from Kidomaru, and he continued to taunt the four of them. Damn, you kid, it makes me very angry. Kidomaru licked his tongue, laughing instead of angry. After all, they are already dead now, even if there is anything else, it will not cause their anger. Shikamaru at most, it will only make them irritable and make them anxious. However, Shikamaru's purpose is precisely this. First of all, after getting irritated, he is inherently disadvantaged in terms of mentality, which is just enough to equalize the anxiety in Shikamaru's hearts. Somehow, they will still be affected by the slightest bit. Secondly, although they say that their strength has become stronger and their movements have become faster after being irritable, this also limits their speed, not to mention that they will not care so much about some details after they become irritable. Shikamaru better analysis. As for more, Shikamaru didn't think about it for a while. It's not that he didn't think about angering them and letting them release a more powerful aura, so that the headquarters can perceive it, but he is not sure whether this barrier can resist the leakage of aura. If not, then the headquarters will sense that if it goes on like this, it is equivalent to working hard, but no matter what, being able to think of so many reasons in a short period of time, Shikamaru is well deserved to be called a new generation of Konoha military division. Uchiha Chen stood in the void, watching Shikamaru's decision and actions below, and couldn't help showing an expression of admiration. Although they were no longer fellow travelers, Chen still couldn't bear it after seeing Shikamaru's actions. Keep admiring glances. After all, there are not many ninjas who can formulate battle plans and can be alone, even in the country of other fields. The few guys left in Chen's hands can't stand alone at all. Shueyu Zongwu and the others are at most the pioneers in carrying out the mission. Xianglin has this qualification. He used to manage the Orochimaru prison well. After all, there the detainees were all thugs, and they were able to suppress the group of guys without rioting. It can be seen that Xianglin's methods are quite powerful. But after all, it is just a prison. The prisoners in it are all detained, and their freedom has been restricted. If the restrictions are lifted, Yi Xianglin has no ability to fight at all, and there is no sufficient deterrence. There is definitely no way to hold back. As a result, you can only give up. It would be great if I could bring this kid Shikamaru back to the Tianjikoku camp. Uchiha Chen rubbed his chin and thought. But he knew it was impossible. According to Shikamaru and Ino's enthusiasm and attitude towards Konoha, it would be a fantasy to make them betray the village. Don't look at the fact that they haven't had any major conflict since they met. That is simply because of Chen's strength and his relationship with Ino. If it really got to the point where they had to draw their swords, Shikamaru and the others would never show mercy. Shikamaru, is this really useful for you? The most worrying thing is still Tooth. After all, he didn't grow up with Shikamaru like Dingji, and he wasn't as reticent as Neji. When in doubt, ask. I don't know either. Shikamaru shook his head, and then explained, this is the only way to do it now. I hope the headquarters can sense what we are doing now, otherwise it will really be resigned to fate. After listening to Shikamaru's words, Neji thought for a while, and probably understood what he wanted to express. After all, he couldn't say it too frankly, and he couldn't let the enemy know. After he was relieved about Shikamaru's decision, he glanced at his teeth. Motioned him not to ask any more, just follow along. In the case of 3 votes to 1 vote, Ya also couldn't say anything, nodded and agreed not to ask again. Hey, I said everyone is dead, why are you resurrected now? You shouldn't be the main force in this battle, you know that Orochimaru has already. Ha 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 ha, what do you know? Shikamaru's words were interrupted before he finished speaking, and Taiyu also jeered loudly. Who told you that we participated in this war? It's just a group of Avengers, the Avengers who can even lose their lives for the sake of strength. Then, Shikamaru wanted to say something, but seeing that the evil spirits on their bodies were getting stronger and stronger, they dodged one step ahead of time. We survived only for revenge. That's not looking for us, aren't you looking for Sandren? They killed you. We will deal with them, and now the main target is you. The 4 people ignored what Shikamaru said, their suffocation and resentment became heavier and heavier, and their strength was enhanced. Gradually, the power of the 4 was no longer something that Shikamaru and the others could resist. Is this the end? At the last moment, Shikamaru couldn't help but closed his eyes. After a long time, Shikamaru opened his eyes involuntarily after not feeling any pain, and was then taken aback. You, Uchiha-chen. Shikamaru didn't expect to see Uchiha-chen in this place. Could it be that he was also bound by the sealing technique? No, it is absolutely impossible for him to be bound by this enchantment with his strength, so there is only one result. The reinforcements are finally here. Shikamaru let out a sigh of relief. But, I didn't expect it to be this guy. Chapter 455, Get Out. Or Die. Shikamaru finally breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly collapsed to the ground, wiped the sweat that did not exist on his forehead and said happily, "Reinforcement, the reinforcements have finally arrived." Although I don't know what kind of agreement Uchiha-chen reached with the headquarters, it seems that Ino has played a big role in it. After all, except for Ino, in the coalition, no one could call Uchiha-chen, and no one dared to call Uchiha-chen. How could it be him? Neji took a step back, stretched out his hand to help Shikamaru up, and asked quietly beside him. Since he is a year older than Uchiha-chen and the others, Yu-chen is not very familiar with him. Even Chen's news is only from other Xiaoqiang's dictation. To put it bluntly, he and Chen are two people who have no intersection at all. Who among Yi Shisen Xiaoqiang had the least psychological burden on Uchiha-chen? Of course, belonged to Tiantianli and Neji, so he didn't understand why Chen came to save the four of them. With Neji's help, Shikamaru reluctantly stood up. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth that had just been smashed into his lower abdomen by the stone, took a few breaths and said, "I didn't expect it to be him. Originally I thought I waited for Naruto to come, but the headquarters didn't receive the information of Naruto's return from Paradise Island. Maybe something was delayed, but now that Uchiha-chen is here, the result is not bad. I know why he came here, and the details will be discussed with you when the time comes, and now we are ready, we are going to break through." The teeth behind him and Dinky nodded. Their attitude towards Uchiha is actually very subtle. On the one hand, as childhood companions, as people whom Ino likes, they do not reject Uchiha, but on the other hand, Uchibo-chan destroyed Konoha in such a high-profile manner, and they were on opposite sides anyway. As for why Uchiha-chan came back to save them, although he also had doubts in his heart, this time was obviously not a good time to talk, and the momentum of the enemy in front of him was getting stronger and stronger. "Who are you? How could you possibly enter this enchantment?" The four of them couldn't believe it. They knew the power of Huang Quan's reincarnation technique, not to mention that it would be difficult to find the soul after it left the body. Even after finding a place, the defense of the enchantment itself is also very tough, and this guy in front of him can walk silently from the outside world into the enchantment. "Wait, you guy, it looks like you are Sasuke." Zuo-jin stared at Chen for a long time, and always thought he was very familiar. After thinking for a long time, he finally thought about who this guy was. Back then, the goal of sneaking into Konoha was not the same. Is that the guy in front of him? Is he Sasuke? What? Master Orochimaru? The other three didn't react at first, but only after hearing Zuo-jin's words did they take a closer look. They were indeed somewhat similar to Sasuke back then. Now that Sasuke is seen here, it doesn't mean that the original mission failed, or that Orochimaru did not use Sasuke as a container. Sasuke, Chen chuckled, as if thinking of something interesting. You must know that during the time when he just defected, he was often regarded as Sasuke and harmed the ninja world. If it wasn't for Ino's words to reveal his true identity, maybe Chen can use Sasuke's name to do even bigger things. I haven't heard such a nostalgic name for a long time. Uchiha-chen sighed softly, then raised his head and said, "For the sake of you who died because of Sasuke, I don't care about you, accept it. Get up and turn around quickly, as long as you don't appear in front of me again, I can take revenge on anyone you want." Hearing Chen's words, Zuo-jin licked his tongue excitedly and said, "Hey, Zuo-jin, it seems that we have been underestimated." Indeed, we were really underestimated. And we were the poor bastards that I stepped on under my feet. It's really annoying. Yujin twisted his neck and showed a hideous expression on his face. Then, what are we going to do? What else can I do? Of course I killed him. Gatong Maru added with a grinning smile. His tone was very casual, but the killing intent contained in it could be sensed from a distance. The words of the four of them made Shikamaru, who heard this, wipe the sweat from his forehead and couldn't help thinking, how dare they be so presumptuous in front of this uncle? I can't imagine how miserable they will become in the future. In the face of resentment all over his body, with a smirking smile on his face, Uchiha Chen looked helpless. The four guys on the opposite side had already died before he rose up, and after they were reincarnated from the dirt, no one would follow him. They mentioned it, so the impression of Chen is completely equal to 0. Gatong Wan, who was in a state of curse and anger, shot an arrow, and couldn't help sneering in his mouth. You stinky little brat, who dares to make a big deal here? It seems that you have forgotten the lesson from the beginning, and I will give it to you today. Increase memory. Quote. They died before Chen was active, so they didn't know about Chen's character at all. They just regarded Chen as Sasuke, and their impression of Sasuke was still at the moment when they sneaked into Konoha and took Sasuke away. At that time Sasuke was taught a lesson by them. As he said that, he smiled and released the hand holding the tail of the arrow, and the long arrow galloped towards Uchiha Chen at a fast speed. But Uchiha Chen was still on the spot, motionless, as if he didn't react, and watched the long arrow approach. Seeing this, Gatong Maru couldn't help but show a cruel smile again. It seems that Uchiha Chen is already the fish on his chopping board, and he must die. However, what surprised Kitamaru was that he was bound to get a blow and finally stopped 1 centimeter in front of Uchiha Chen, and could no longer move forward. How is that possible? Gatong Maru's eyes widened. Reaching out the long arrow that stopped in front of him, and looking at the four of them, Uchiha Chen said again, the last time, this is the last time I ask you. I can let go of what happened before. Now, you answer. Do not promise to be my subordinate to do things for me. Quote. Humph. Taiyu also snorted coldly, wishful thinking. Jirofang. Saying that, she yelled at Jirofang. Understood. Gatong Maru set up a bow and arrow, and Duoyu also put up a flute, and the left and right were reunited, and Jirofang slapped the ground with both hands. Clearly ready for battle. It's stubborn. Uchiha Chen snorted coldly, saying that he was full of momentum, and the powerful oppressive force attacked the four of them. 450th chapters. Then die. Since these four guys are ignorant of current affairs, they have no meaning to exist. Yuan also planned to let them go. After all, these four guys died because of Sasuke, so as long as they don't take the initiative to provoke him, he doesn't mind turning a blind eye, but now at first glance, maybe these four guys didn't think so. Hey, Chen's mouth grinned slightly, and the kaleidoscope writing wheel in his eyes swayed with halos, but in a short while, the layers of circles replaced the kaleidoscope writing wheel in Chen's eyes. Uchiha Chen, who has been transformed into Samsara Eye, stretched out his hand towards the sound of the four people, and the power of the human world was activated. Suddenly, the four of them felt an irresistible attraction coming from Chen's hands, and even, to their horror, for some reason, their bodies were involuntarily catering to this attraction. Even though they have given instructions to avoid in their brains, it still hasn't changed their current situation. They could only watch helplessly as they and their teammates flew towards Uchiha Chen involuntarily. Damn, who the hell are you? At this time, everyone understood that the guy in front of him was not Sasuke at all, but a guy who looked very similar to Sasuke. Gatong Maru had an idea, sticking spider silk behind him, and then 3 arrows were fired, and the tail of the arrow was also attached to the spider silk. In the front left, it was obvious that he knew what his teammates wanted to do, and grabbed the arrow with one hand. The arrow he flew, and the other 2 saw the movements of Zuo-jin and followed suit. In this way, with the help of the sticking ability of the spider web behind him, Kitamaru saved himself and all 3 of his teammates. Innocent, do you think this is the end? Uchiha Chen sneered, and was very interested in Kitamaru's ignorance. Uchiha Chen. Sometimes ignorance is actually a kind of happiness, because they would not know whether they died in this way. What a great hand, this will not add more pressure to them. Vientian Tianian. A stronger gravitational force than before came, and the two attractive forces directly merged into one at this moment, forming an attractive force that was countless times stronger than the two. The four of Kitamaru had no resistance at all. And the tough spider silk that they thought could be used to resist seems to no longer exist at this moment. As soon as they encounter this strong attraction, they melt away directly, and there is no longer any tenacious breath. Damn! Tayuya gritted his teeth, glared at Uchiha Chen in the air, and put the recorder to his mouth with difficulty, trying to play and control the three giants to move forward. Zu! 3 shuriken threw out. Shikamaru looked at her mockingly and said, "Want to control a psychic beast? No way." Under the influence of Vientiantianian, the shuriken deviates a lot, but it doesn't matter, there is still a shuriken that accidentally hit Tayuya's hand after the collision, knocking off her recorder. My flute. Duoyu also panicked when she saw this, and she stopped her steps that she was going to resist, and reached out to touch her flute, but she was directly killed because she gave up her resistance to Wanxiangtianian. Pull over. Chen's hand rested on Duoyuya's back, and a phantom with the word Hades appeared behind him. He pinched Duoyuya with one hand and threw it behind him. The King of Hell projection opened his mouth synchronously, and stretched out 2 big hands from his mouth, grabbing Duoyuya and stuffing it into his mouth. At this point, the Sound and Ninjas group of 4 Yuyu also became the first one of them to die completely. Tayuya, Kitamaru and the others widened their eyes as they watched Tayuya disappear in front of them step by step, and an emotion called anger could not help but arise in their hearts, not because of Tayuya's death. Their anger. You must know that the relationship between them is not as good as imagined, but they have a slight feeling after seeing Tayuya's death, for fear that the next death will be themselves. You bastard, who the hell are you? Who am I? Chen looked at the three with a faint smile. His eyes were full of jokes. Just treat me as Sasuke, anyway, the ending is the same for both of you. When he was about to be absorbed, Gatong Maru was quick-witted, and took the opportunity to grab the Rashomon who was channeled from the left and right, and got into the back of the Rashomon before the attraction came again, so as to avoid Uchiha Chen's absorption. What a joke! Although we admit that Sasuke is a genius, it is absolutely impossible for him to become so strong in the past few years. So, who the hell are you? Gaidumaru took a breath and cursed Uchiha Chen secretly. He didn't expect that the guy in front of him was already so strong that he even used the clone technique to become Sasuke to lie to them. However, they didn't think about it carefully. With just the 4 of them, what was there to deceive Uchiha? Okay, I'm too lazy to play hide and seek with you, come here. Uchiha Chen's eyes narrowed, increasing the pupil power output in his eyes, and the power of Vientiantianian once again rose to a level steps. The remaining 3 people have no way to resist in the Vientiantianian that Uchiha Chen deliberately increased the output of pupil power, and even they don't know how to resist. The 3 fell into the hands of Uchiha Chen one by one, and were thrown by Uchiha Chen to Yama as its appetizer. After swallowing the souls of the 4 people, the shadow of Hades behind Uchiha Chen seemed to be a lot more solid. I saw it hiccuped, and then set his eyes on the 4 Shikamaru Dingji who were also souls. Body. However, Shikamaru and the others, who were originally relieved, suddenly shuddered at the moment when the King of Hell was staring at them, and cold sweat flowed out of them. This thing can eat people without blinking, but the 4 of them watched the thing in front of them and swallowed the 4 people who were immortal. Uchiha Chen didn't turn his head back, reached out and knocked on the head of Yan Wangxiang, only to see that Yan Wangxiang seemed to have his own consciousness, and finally took a deep look at the 4 Shikamaru and then disappeared. In the eyes of the people. Chapter 457, Another Wave. Uchiha Chen helplessly slackened his shoulders. He actually couldn't understand his own ghost image of the King of Hell, and was a little confused. You must know that there has never been such a situation as Nagato's Hades sighing. Nagato's Hell Road, Hades sighing, is not conscious, or can only act according to Nagato's will. However, the avatar of Hades summoned by Uchiha has his own consciousness, and can even communicate with Uchiha on an equal footing. If the avatar of Hades is not happy, he will even refuse Uchiha's call. This made him very embarrassed. Although it is said that the power of the King of Hell's clone is much stronger, if possible, Chen Ning would prefer the less powerful and obedient, and not the more powerful and disobedient. This kind of words, just think about it, and now I have signed a contract with this Hades sighing, and it is impossible to cancel it no matter what. In fact, Chen had a guess that maybe it was the legendary Hades who signed the contract with him, not the clone. Maybe when the time is right, his hell can really summon the King of Hell. After eliminating the group of 4 of them, the barrier of Wangquan's reincarnation began to gradually collapse. Before the 4 of them were called away, Uchiha Chen stopped Shikamaru and said, "Remember to tell Ino 10,000 when you go back. Don't forget what she promised me." After speaking, he stepped out and disappeared directly into the eyes of everyone. Shikamaru and the others looked at each other, not knowing what happened. "You said, what did Ino promise Chen?" Even with his strength, he couldn't help but keep talking about it. Ya touched Shikamaru's shoulder and raised his eyebrows. Shikamaru shook his head, his hands spread out. "I don't know, I'm not a roundworm in their stomachs, how can I understand their thoughts? Besides, it's pretty good that Chen can come to rescue us this time. We should be thanking people and not inquiring about them." Quote. "However, I think Ino must have paid a great price, otherwise Chen would not have agreed to her to save us. I can probably understand Chen's temperament a little, knowing that Ino almost died at the beginning. To be able to make him change his mind, what happened this time?" Shikamaru grabbed his hair hard, but still didn't have a clue. In his opinion, it would be easier for him to direct a large-scale battle than to let him guess what happened between these little lovers. So, after Shikamaru and Dingji were rescued, they kept pestering Ino to ask her what conditions she promised to make Chen agree to come and save people. What surprised them was that Ino blushed. After they repeatedly asked, Ino couldn't help giving them both a shudder, which made them quiet down, but the eyes of the 2 of them looking at Ino were still full of weirdness. Ino blushed with shame, but in front of his 2 teammates, he was not easy to attack, so he could only secretly curse a few words in his heart. "Ah, cut." Uchiha Chen, who was standing in the void, couldn't help but sneezed, and then he woke up and laughed at himself. "It seems that someone is thinking of me again. Speaking of which, this crisis should be relieved, but why am I still a little uneasy?" Uchiha Chen tightly squeezed the position of his left chest with one hand, which was the position of his heart, but at this moment his heart was still aching. "Originally, I only felt a slight palpitation in my heart, but now it began to ache, and even began to sting and burn. Isn't it Ino?" Uchiha Chen squeezed his left chest, the cold sweat on his head slid down the contours of his face, and he had no clue now. Since it is not Ino, then the danger is probably coming to Sasuke, but he knows Sasuke's words. Unless a character like him appears, no one can drive him to a dead end. It shouldn't be. Uchiha Chen took a deep breath and waved away the sparrow that landed on him as a big tree. "System, what's going on?" In desperation, Chen could only ask the system for help. To be honest, he has not relied on the system so much for a long time. Since he can rely on absorbing clone-tailed beasts, the system has indeed reached a dispensable realm for him. After all, his strength no longer needs the help of the system. Unexpectedly, he wanted to get rid of the independence of the system, and so far has not been successful. "Ding," answer the host. The host's induction will not go wrong, but the direction of the host's choice is deviated. Choose a direction. Uchiha Chen wondered. That's right, the host only pays attention to the people at the moment, but forgets the ability that the host itself has. The ability that I have. Uchiha Chen looked down at his hands and muttered to himself. Ding, that's it. I hope the host understands it well. My ability. Chen closed his eyes, put his hands on the edge of his thighs weakly, pursed his mouth tightly, thought about it for a long time, and suddenly opened his eyes. It's her. So it is, so it is. Chen Xian's whole body started shaking violently, and the whole person was in an extremely unstable state. He muttered to himself, no wonder, it was her. Speaking of which, Uchiha Chen's eyes narrowed, his legs raised, only to see his figure swaying slightly, and the whole person disappeared in this world. In the void, Uchiha Chen galloped all the way. No one knew where he was going, no one knew where his destination was, but looking at Chen's firm eyes, it was clear that he had found the goal to go. Hey! Uchiha Chen crossed, causing a strong air current. Now he is moving at full speed, even a few points faster than the speed of Flying Thunder God. It can be said that now Chen is completely relying on his feelings, and his heart will guide him in the right direction. The road is long but also short. The place where Chen's heartbeat began to accelerate violently was the destination that Chen was about to reach. Along the way, from south to north, starting from the country of fire, along the country of grass, the country of fields, the country of rain, and came to the edge of the country of wind. The feeling was even stronger, and Chen knew that this opportunity, the 8th achievement, was within the territory of the land of wind. Step out and continue on the journey of search. Chapter 458, Dragon Vein. Is it here? Uchiha Chen stopped, looking at the deserted desert around him. He gently covered his left chest, his heartbeat speeded up again and again, until this place, the speed of his heartbeat changed. Go fast. Here, Uchiha Chen half squinted the kaleidoscope writing wheel. After careful observation, he looked at the huge chakra energy group below. Oh no, it should be said to be the chakra energy mountain range. Said, isn't this a dragon vein? This is Lulin. Uchiha suddenly narrowed his eyes, as if thinking of something, and suddenly realized, so it is, this is Lulin. No wonder there are such huge dragon veins. Chen fluttered down from the air and walked on this vast and lonely desert. There were broken walls and ruins everywhere around Chen. Obviously, this place has long been uninhabited. The prosperous ancient country of Lulin has long been lost in the dust of history. I remember that there is a guy named Beizu here. Uchiha casually threw away the shuriken he picked up from the ground. After more than 20 years of weathering, even the best quality shuriken has now been lost. Its original brilliance. Suddenly, Uchiha Chen turned his head and stared at the corner where he came, and said coldly, "Come out." However, the answer to him was loneliness. Uchiha Chen frowned. Is it not coming out? He stood up and put one hand under his mouth. Fire escape how fireball technique. A huge fireball equivalent to 5 times the size of the ordinary fireball technique spit out from Uchiha Chen's mouth and went straight to the corner where the man was hiding. At this moment, a black shadow flashed from the corner, and he galloped away, trying to avoid Uchiha Chen's attack. Want to go? No way. Chen pointed with one hand, and the huge fireball changed its direction in an instant, turning a corner and continuing to chase the mysterious man in black. Boom. After all, the speed of that man was no match for the speed of ninjutsu flying, and the fireball technique did not accidentally hit the mysterious man. The mysterious man couldn't help screaming after being violently impacted and burned. Man. Uchiha Chen looked at the guy who was constantly struggling in the fireball technique. In his induction just now, he clearly sensed that the guy in front of him was really a woman, and this guy, the clothes on his body were obviously also worn by women, but she made a man's scream. Could it be? Uchiha Chen's eyes widened, because of the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. Even if the guy was in the middle of the fire, Chen could clearly see the situation inside, and he was exposed by the continuous burning of the fireball technique. The guy with the original body, especially after seeing the little penis that showed a centimeter after the guy's skirt was destroyed, he couldn't help covering his eyes, and waved a thunderbolt to wipe out the guy in front of him. It's just irritating eyes. Chen originally thought that he should not be dizzy, but he was wrong from the beginning, and it was impossible not to be dizzy from the beginning to the end. Obviously, the guy in the skirt is a man. Thinking of this, Chen couldn't help but fight a cold war, and even the stinging pain in his chest slightly weakened a lot. Perhaps, this is what Chen said on the internet in his previous life, but Chen didn't expect that even if he came to the world of Hokage, the thing about women's clothing is still not extinct. Maybe this will also be the evolution of human beings. A road. There may be many more cute girls with little Tintin in the future. Closer to home, Chen frowned slightly. He knew that there were very few people coming from this place. In addition to Bezu and the original 7th class, only the descendants of Queen Sarah appeared here. The 7th class is impossible, so it is obvious that this figure is 100 feet. Sarah's descendants will only appear when there is a change in the dragon's veins. It's just that Chen didn't know why the women's clothing of the Bezu Club appeared, even so late. However, it was not that Bezu appeared late, but Chen appeared too early. He abruptly pushed the 4th Ninja World War forward for a year or two. According to the progress, Bezu just knew of the existence of this place. However, at this time, Naruto and the others did not accept the mission from Lulin. Obviously, it was all because of Chen. The reason why Bezu hid was because he saw Chen suddenly landed and hid himself without knowing the depth of the enemy. This was the first element that a puppet master must be thoroughly familiar with. Ignoring Bezu, who had become Wei Fei, Chen continued to walk forward. Without being hindered by anyone along the way, Chen easily came to the place where the 4 generations of Hokage Wave Feng Minato sealed the dragon veins. Is it here? Uchiha Chen stopped. Looking at the sealing technique under his feet, he smiled contemptuously. The sealing technique in this world that wants to beat him has not yet appeared. Chen gave a light drink. The kaleidoscope writing wheel in his eyes slowly turned, and his pupil power directly reached the center of the operation through the surface of the seal. Force, shout, solution. Immediately, countless dense sealing techniques appeared in this world. They gathered together and automatically rotated around Uchiha Chen. Gradually, they began to spread from the outermost layer of the technique to the inside and gradually disappeared in this world. After the sealing technique was lifted, Chen brought Fei Lei Shen Kue without much effort. Slowly, the eyes that were originally closed on the ground gradually opened, and a deep purple light radiated from the pupil, and a lavender light gradually rose from the bottom of the bottomless cave. At the same time, Uchiha Chen, who was standing in the center of the dragon vein, seemed to be treated uniquely by the dragon vein, and a layer of purple light appeared all over his body. In the end, the deep purple light at the pupil continued to expand, and in an instant Uchiha Chen swallowed. Although Chen had already prepared himself before being swallowed by the light of the dragon veins, when the teleportation started, Chen couldn't help but feel dizzy. Without him, Chen is now traveling through time and space. Along this deep purple light is a link. Chen is constantly walking through the long river of time, and I don't know how long it has been. You must know that such opportunities are rare. The eternal kaleidoscope writing wheel eye is known as the eye of the gods. If you can see through the clues of time, maybe you can develop the new ability of the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. Chapter 459, Candle Dragon. However, the long river of time and space is something that even the immortals of the 6 paths have never controlled. If you forcibly try to comprehend something that is beyond human control, it will be greatly countered. While Uchiha Chen sat quietly and felt it carefully, an energy that could almost destroy the sky and the earth rushed towards him like a beast. Uchiha Chen, who had been meditating and comprehending, suddenly felt a strong pressure from the outside world that wanted to completely destroy him. He suddenly opened his eyes, only to see a scarlet candle dragon in front of him opening its huge mouth to swallow Chen in one bite. Fuck! Uchiha Chen was taken aback, put his hands on his hands, and quickly left his original position at the bottom of his feet. It was almost impossible for Uchiha Chen to leave this place before the colorful candle dragon bit his head in one bite. What the hell is this? As a person from the Washa Kingdom in the previous life, of course the guy in front of him was a dragon, but it was very strange. It didn't look like the legendary 5-clawed golden dragon with a human face and a snake body. Serpent pocket in fairy mode. However, a faint feeling in Chen told him that the guy in front of him was not a fake like a big snake pocket, but a real dragon. Who are you? With a vigilant attitude, Uchiha Chen tried to talk to Zulong. As a result, the candle dragon did not respond to him, and a tail swung towards him, causing a gust of wind. No, it's poisonous. Uchiha Chen felt that the half-human, half-snake guy opposite was very likely to be highly poisonous, and immediately held his breath, then jumped to avoid his tail. Hiss. Zulong looked at Uchiha Chen with a bad face, and the tongue kept sticking out of his mouth, as if to find out where Uchiha Chen was. Chen understands that creatures like this are actually not very dependent on the eyes, and more are actually perceived by body temperature and wind direction. However, if the opposite is a snake, then Chen's judgment is undoubtedly correct, but unfortunately Chen is facing the candle dragon from the mythical story of Shanhaijing, the legendary beast that controls time. Suddenly, Chen saw the candle dragon on the opposite side curling up slightly, as if he was accumulating energy, but also as if his body had been injured. However, Uchiha Chen is more inclined to the former. After all, he saw that the monster in front of him was not harmed. Sure enough, I saw Zulong's mouth opened and his tail exerted force, and his entire body quickly rushed towards Uchiha Chen. In this long river of time, the candle dragon is like a fish in water. The entire time is his territory. As a divine beast that controls time, it will not be affected at all. However, Chen is different. In this long river of time, he can't release the slightest ninjutsu. Even if he used ninjutsu, it would be ineffective, and he would even be attacked by ninjutsu. This was already sensed when Uchiha Chen first came in. His chakra was faintly suppressed in this place, and there was even an inexplicable thing swallowing the chakra in his body. In the blink of an eye, Zulong came to Chen Uchiha. Obviously, this moment of distraction made Zulong seize the opportunity and came to Chen Uchiha. His tail was already wrapped around Chen's body, and Chen was imprisoned in an instant. He grew his mouth and shouted at Uchiha Chen, and the fishy aura in his mouth sprayed against Uchiha Chen's face. You must know that although the candle dragon is a divine beast, it is in charge of killing in addition to time. That fishy stench is the manifestation of its cannibalism. Mom sells a batch. Uchiha Chen couldn't help but scolded, but he didn't think that he was just caught by this monster after a little distraction. You must know that in the world of Hokage, no matter how distracted he is, his opponent will take him without any method. It looks like I'm going to strengthen combat training recently. Chen shook his head. The rapid improvement of his strength made him lose his mind. If it wasn't for Zulong giving him a loud slap in the face today, maybe he would still be immersed in his own time. In the invincible dream, the expansion is incomparable. Seeing Zulong open his mouth, he wanted to swallow Chen Uchiha in one bite, but Chen is not so easy to deal with. Even if he can't release ninjutsu now, he can still use taijutsu and illusion. The fifth door of the 8 gates of Dunjia is opened. Uchiha Chen had no choice but to forcibly open the 8 gates of Dunjia, and a steady stream of power from the meridians surged in his body. It's not that Chen doesn't use the power of the tailed beast, but that this place is full of weirdness, and Chen has no way to connect with the 10 tails in his body. At the same time, the kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes in Uchiha Chen's eyes slowly turned, and the bewitching pupils just matched the fearsome eyes of Zulong. Monthly reading. The pupil technique unfolded, and a silent wave spread from Uchiha Chen's eyes, bringing Zulong into his illusion world. In the world of Yudu, Chen Uchiha stood proudly in the void. His eyes looked at the candle dragon who was dragged into the illusion by him without any fluctuation, and said softly, "Welcome to my world of Yudu, please enjoy it to the fullest." Before the words were finished, the candle dragon roared loudly, and the entire illusion world cracked like a mirror, like a broken mirror, making a bang. Uchiha Chen made a muffled sound, blood and tears left in his eyes, and his throat kept rolling, but Chen finally swallowed the blood in his mouth. His feet were soft and he almost lost his footing. You must know that this is the first time that Uchiha Chen's illusion has been counterattacked. Even he had just used the illusion, and it didn't work, so he was forcibly destroyed by the monster in front of him. Looking at the candle dragon who was smiling but not smiling in front of him, Uchiha Chen took a deep breath and forcibly restrained the pain in his heart. You must know that I have always looked at each other with this kind of playful eyes before, and no one has ever looked at myself with this kind of look, this condescending expression of the strong looking at the weak, full of ridicule and full of jokes. Chen swears that he will never again. I don't want to feel it a second time. Perhaps he never thought of this feeling of humiliation. When he looked at others with this kind of eyes, others also looked at him with this kind of humiliating eyes, and their hearts were full of resentment. Uchiha Chen gritted his teeth and squeezed his hands tightly, watching Zulong's face getting bigger and bigger in front of him. He took a deep breath and punched Zulong in the face. Roar! The torch dragon, who was suddenly attacked violently, did not react at all. Although he was a divine beast, he still couldn't help but let out a scream in pain after receiving a heavy punch from Chen Uchiha after opening the 5 doors. Chapter 460, Hard Fight. That candle dragon suddenly received a heavy punch from Uchiha Chen, and he didn't have time to react at all. After screaming in agony, he could not help loosening his restraint on Uchiha Chen. Taking advantage of Zulong's relaxation of the restraint on Chen, he forcibly pulled, forcibly breaking the tail of Zulong's restraint and escaping from it. It has to be said that the candle dragon occupies the right time and the right place in the long river of time. The place where he was injured by Chen, but within a breath of time, will be swollen and recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye under the repair of time source chi. Chen took a sip and secretly said, "This monster really can't be beaten to death." Chen, who knew that he couldn't defeat the monster in front of him, could only pray that the time traveled faster. You must know that Naruto, Yamato and Beizu have never been chased by such monsters when they traveled through time and space through the dragon veins. However, what Chen didn't know was that rather than saying that this monster came to the door by himself, it was better to say that he brought it here. You must know that Naruto 100 feet and the others did not think about stealing the power of time law in the long river of time when they traveled through time and space. If it wasn't for Chen's vain attempt to control the law of time in the long river of time, how could it possibly lead to the divine beast like the candle dragon? You must know that in the classic of mountains and seas, the candle dragon is the god of the human-faced snake god, not to mention the existence of the time ancestor witch among the 12 ancestor witches. His body is everywhere in the long river of time. Those who try to steal the law of time in the long river of time will suffer the most cruel blow from the candle dragon, that is, Zhu Juin. If it wasn't for the law of time contained in Chen's eyes, perhaps Zulong would have brutally suppressed him long ago. In Chen's kaleidoscope, in addition to his own ability to control the flow of time, he also exchanged Fuyu's ability before, which gave his eyes the ability to control the present and see through the future at the same time. If it wasn't for Zulong's interest in his abilities, maybe he wouldn't even look at Chen. Now Zulong is waiting for Chen to display his true abilities. However, Chen did not know at all. As a noble god, Zulong naturally disdains to speak to a humble human, even if the human body contains very strong energy. However, Chen thought that the monster in front of him couldn't speak at all. The two did not communicate during the whole process, and they thought they had taken control of the situation, but they didn't know that this was all just a random guess by the two guys. Perhaps it was because of being injured by Chen, a humble existence in Zulong's eyes, a strange emotion called anger appeared in Zulong's eyes. He roared at Uchiha Chen in a low voice, a fierce light flashed in his eyes, and he no longer looked at Uchiha Chen with a playful look like before. Seeing this, Uchiha Chen was overjoyed. Although it is said that the monster in his eyes is now wary of him, but because of his anger, he can no longer maintain a calm mind like before. As long as there is an emotional error, there will definitely be a flaw, which is Uchiha Chen's most common method. This is the plan to provoke others with this method like in the past. Letting the enemy reveal his flaws after losing control of his emotions can also be said to be playing with the opponent's emotions. The corners of Chen's mouth rose slightly, and his eyes looking at Zulong were also full of ridicule. It doesn't matter if he can't use ninjutsu now. His purpose is not to kill the candle dragon, but to delay it. When the time and space travel is completed, Chen pats his butt and can leave. According to Chen's guess, the guy in front of him is 80% the guardian of the long river of time. As long as he goes out of the scope of the long river of time, he will have nothing to do with himself. I have to say that Chen's sixth sense is very accurate, and he guessed it right. However, whether he can persist under the angry candle dragon until the time and space travel is completed is another matter. The candle dragon roared loudly, and spit out rounds of black-brown flames. Even if Chen was far away, he could sense the strong burning sensation in the flames. The power of this flame is not at all under Chen's Amaterasu. However, now Chen can't use Amaterasu, he can only choose to dodge. The black-brown flame made a kai sound when it touched the ground. Uchiha Chen looked down, and the burning part of the flame actually began to rot slowly. It turns out that the most powerful thing about this flame is not its scorching ability, but its corrosive ability. Although Chen didn't know how tough the blue bricks were under the long river of time, he knew that even his strongest attack could not leave the slightest trace on it. However, the monster in front of him easily corroded the blue brick, and even faintly could see through the flames the unfathomable abyss beneath it after it was corroded thoroughly. Chen took 2 steps back without a trace, his eyes swept around, and suddenly his eyes were condensed, and the light flashed. He found that behind the candle dragon, there seemed to be a faint path for people to walk on. And that candle dragon is also blocking Chen's gaze towards that passage, intentionally or unintentionally. In Chen's view, perhaps that road may be his only hope of escape. Seeing that the time and space travel has been moving forward and has not stopped, Chen has a bold idea in his heart. Maybe everyone who is traveling in time and space will enter that passage in the end, and then transfer from that passage to the time and space they want to go. The reason why they can enter that passage is because the passage itself is attractive, it can attract people to the past, but now there is a guardian beast in front of Chen and the channel, which may be a long river of time, and he is in the middle of it and forcibly cut off the connection between Chen and the channel. This made Chen unable to pass through the time-space tunnel for a long time. This also means that as long as Chen can pass through the candle dragon and reach the passage, then he can escape. As for jumping into a river or some other way, it's not that Chen didn't think about it, but after Chen threw Kuwu into the long river and onto the colorful barrier, he gave up the idea. That place is not a place that people can pass through. That place is full of the power of the law. As long as it touches it, it may be wiped out by the power of the law. Didn't you see that even the monster in front of you didn't dare to approach the real long river of time? There is only one chance. Chen took out a Kuwu in his hand and looked at Zulong cautiously. To be honest, he doesn't know whether this approach is right or not, but at present he has no choice but to give it a shot. Perhaps there is still hope, and if he continues to fight stubbornly, he may really die. Success or failure is one move again. Uchiha Chen's little finger hooked kunai's ring and played a sword flower.